Fear, fear, fear. We are here with the Fear podcast, which hopefully won't have disastrous technical issues ruin it this time. We recorded one. We recorded an entire one where I now only have Kirk's audio because everything just broke. OBS just only recorded little tiny snippets at a time. This time I'll aim my webcam down so you can see. I have a camera down here filming me so that if OBS just shits itself, I still have a recording. So I have two cameras in different positions aiming at me. So if you're watching the video, if you're watching this video and it looks like I'm just not looking at the camera, that is why. Welcome back. Fear. Fear. Fear.
Fear.
Fear.
I am your host, Kirk Zanetti, also known as Captain Kirk.
And I am the other host, Coleman Hahn, also known as Chuck Batman 5 on Instagram.
I'm at the Captain Kirk on Instagram, the
today,
Captain _ Kirk, and Captain is spelled with a K.
All right. Today we have a lot of things to talk about. We watched 4 movies yesterday of vastly varying quality.
It is amazing how much their quality varied just in like the little bit that we saw of them.
Mm-hmm. We watched Candyman, Lighthouse. I'm blanking. Joe's Apartment, 9. JoJo's Bizarre Cockroach Apartment. Yes. Penny, welcome back, Pennywise Zimbabwedookers.
Oh, you did the intro without. Yeah, I was trying to do that intro. The Pennywise and Zimbabwedookers, and of course the
Vengeful Seagull Gods, which I now understand.
You get it now
because we watched The Lighthouse, so now I understand that part of the weird opening line.
I understand my memes.
I now understand your memes. So
you're gonna understand when I text you out of context. Why'd you spill your beans?
Why'd you spill your beans? Oh man. So
and then I'm gonna do a silence boomer meme. And then I'm just gonna Photoshop naked Willem Dafoe staring at you with his piercing eyes.
Oh, I'll just put that in front of the camera right now. That's basically me when I look at the webcam. It's like immense power. Anyway.
Before we get to the reviews proper, do you have any movies that we watched in the last few weeks that you want to like?
I have something. It's not a movie. It's actually. For my Design for Performance class, we needed to watch some Broadway shows. Wait, what? My camera turned off. Not the OBS one, this one. Why did it turn off? Oh my god, I'm a dumbass. I forgot to put the memory card back in it. Hopefully OBS is working. If not, we can just start over.
Do you want me to start over?
No. We're gonna keep rolling. We're gonna keep rolling. I hope OBS is working. If not, I'll cut it in with the camera because I'm an idiot and I set the camera up on my computer without actually putting a memory card in. Hopefully it won't matter. Hopefully this won't be necessary. Hopefully OBS will work now. The last time we tried to record a podcast, I had it in live stream mode. Because I forgot to change it out of live stream mode, apparently, from when I live streamed like 6 months ago. I don't know, man. Let me just get the...
Who can say, oh boy.
Okay, hold on. I gotta get the camera.
Right. While you're doing that, I guess I can tell them about... I don't know.
Yeah, tell them about something you watched. You watched a bunch of J.J. Abrams movies since the last session.
Because I'm a glutton for punishment, after reviewing Cat in the Hat, and
I forgot you watched Cat in the Hat.
3-day retrospective on my most hated movies of all time, Hercules.
I really don't understand why you hate Hercules so much.
People don't seem to understand. The best way I can describe it is I have an unholy blood pact with it.
I mean, I feel like everyone has that one movie that they just hate more than I'm gonna turn on the webcam. I'm gonna turn on my backup cam now. I feel like everyone has that movie that they just hate. Camera, why? You were balanced perfectly until I turned you on, and now you won't balance anymore. Get
I think the best way I can describe it is I don't necessarily hate it. It's just that I have an unholy blood pact with it, where it came out the same year I did, and I was for large chunks of my life, I was closely associated with that movie. Not that I liked it, but that I was closely associated with it because we were born in the same year.
That's strange. For reference, if the OBS doesn't work and I have to use only this webcam footage, we're talking about why Kirk hates the Disney movie Hercules. More than anyone I've ever met hates the Disney movie Hercules. I like the Disney. I really like the Disney movie Hercules. So I get some of your criticisms, but some of it I'm just like, wow, okay. There is a passionate hatred there that I just do not see from anyone else in regards to that movie.
I completely understand why people like Hercules. There's stuff to like there. There's stuff that I don't just like. I actually love. I love Megara. I love the music. I like the idea of the world they set up, although I don't like its actual execution.
Megara was like my favorite character. I won't say I'm in love is the best Disney princess song. Period.
There's very little competition with it. It's like she's got like I don't want to just make this a Megara stan podcast, although we could definitely do that. But like she's got such more emotional sort of vulnerability and depth and like maturity to her character than any of the other Disney princesses or any of the other characters in the Disney Renaissance that also fit that mold of like the female love interest. Like she's got like a lot more. She's got so much more depth, in my opinion, than a lot of them do.
For sure.
She's much more world weary, and like she might have once been that bright-eyed, idealistic, wanting more from life, but like the reality of life has made her jaded and bitter, and it isn't until Hercules comes along that she's able to sort of open up back to the person she once was, or the person she cast away.
And we're here today to talk about several movies. Hercules is not one of them. We just went on a side tangent.
I heard someone just mentioned Hercules and my blood started boiling.
You mentioned Hercules. You mentioned it yourself because you were talking about all the movies you watched.
I know, because I'm a glutton for punishment. I watched Hercules, then I watched both Peter Pans, then I watched both Pocahontases, then I watched...
You watched both Pocahontases? Why?
Because I hate them so much.
Is the second one any better? Is the second one better?
It's better if only because it's lost any sense of pretension.
it's less offensively bad, but it's still bad.
It's less offensively bad and is ironically enough more historically accurate than the original.
What strange. Okay. But anyway, the four movies we're talking about here are
to a zero.
But anyway, the four movies we're talking about are Candyman, Lighthouse, Joe's Apartment, and 9. So now I can finally get the vengeful seagull gods thing that Kirk says every time in the
understand why you can understand why people
I can understand the vengeful seagull gods in the audience.
You can recognize them. You can respect their identity.
For sure.
Also, I don't want to stay too long on these random tangents, but you did also want me to talk about my J.J. Abrams.
You don't need to talk. I feel like you don't need to talk about the J.J. Abrams thing. That's not a necessary thing, but it is a thing that would be useful, I suppose.
I've done a deep dissection on J.J. Abrams on my Instagram. So
yeah, he literally has like a YouTube video essays worth of J.J. Abrams stuff on his Instagram that you really should just record. Literally just record yourself saying all of that and upload it.
Steel by Thunder.
Once you figure out what's wrong with your mic, he's having to use his computer mic, and I'm having to use my computer mic.
I'm using my stand mic now, but for some reason it didn't work earlier, so I had to unplug it and then plug it.
Interesting.
I don't know how that fixed it, but it fixed.
What the fuck? Interesting. I don't really notice any difference except your voice sounds a little deeper.
Yeah. I think it's just because it's picking up more of the bass in my voice than it's
the
treble or the
tenor
or the...
Okay.
I don't know. I'm a baritone. I don't normally sound like it, but I'm a baritone.
So, you were asking me if I had anything I wanted to talk about, and then halfway through I realized that I didn't put the memory card in my Canon PowerShot camera. So, I did watch...
It wasn't a movie, it was something else.
It was the Broadway it was a... I don't think it was on Broadway, but it was a specially filmed version of a specially filmed live play Cats. So it was the stage show Cats, but it was like filmed somewhat like a movie, so there was close-up shots of the actors in cat makeup dancing around. I watched it for an assignment for class because we needed to watch a show, but also because I knew it was good podcast fuel. We talked about Cats last time, so we gotta talk about...
Substantially different that you would need to do an entire different analysis of?
Oh, it's not that different. We spent like 18 minutes on the movie. I'm not spending that long on this. I just wanted to briefly touch on some of the differences.
I'm looking at our audio right now, and we're at like 13 minutes already.
What? We are? Holy crap, my camera's only at like... fucking damn it. I have to use my phone camera to see how much my Canon camera is at record... Oh yeah, I guess it's at like 7 minutes. You know what? It's fine. This is gonna be a long one. Cats Broadway is better than the movie, if only because it doesn't have CGI monstrosities, and also because I feel like the movie is creepy in an unintentional way, and the stage show is kind of creepy in an intentional way. Like, the song numbers are intentionally... The song numbers that are supposed to be creepy are creepy, and the ones that are supposed to be fun are actually somewhat fun. Somehow the music is better. Like, they didn't just butcher the visual aspects. They also, like, they also butchered a lot of the songs in the movie. Like,
So what you're saying is that the Cats movie isn't good for anyone?
No, it's just awful in every way. The stage show, like, the Rum Tum Tuggers song is actually pretty great in the version that I watched, the stage production I watched. And I like it, rather than have a McCavity... Oh yeah, the whole Taylor Swift cat scene is gone. Or not gone, I guess it was added for the movie. But McCavity doesn't actually, like, have any dialogue. He just shows up, and he's got, like... They portray him more as a force of nature. They keep teasing him, and then at the end, he finally shows up, and he's just this violent monster that kidnaps Old Deuteronomy and attacks people, and there's a cool fight sequence. And in the movie, he's just like, you know, kind of a generic villain. Granted, I do kind of like Idris Elba hamming it up, but...
Would you say that Rum Tum Tugger slaps? That was me slapping my knee.
Yeah, I know. Rum Tum Tugger does slap. And oddly enough, Jason Derulo's, portrayal of the role is pretty accurate. He's just not as skilled in the realm of musical theater as actual musical theater performers. And it was, like, just the set design was better, because it wasn't, like, this weird, like... It did the same scale thing to make the cats, like, you know, cat-sized, but it wasn't so, like, weird and inconsistent as it is in movie form. Like, the best way I can put it is, I still don't like Cats, the musical, but I can see why some Broadway fans would enjoy it in that form, but not in the movie form.
Cats, the
Yeah.
musical, not Cats, the movie musical.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say about Cats the movie, or the musical. We can move on to our main course.
The delicious main course.
The
Alright, so I've pulled up all of the movies on Amazon or Netflix, and I'm gonna read you guys a description of them as we watch them. So I'm going to start with the Candyman's description.
The Candyman!
Alright, Candyman. Grad student Helen Lyle unintentionally summons the Candyman, a hooked-handed creature made flesh by other people. What? That description is a lie.
Wait, what is the description? What is it? I'm gonna pull it up.
Grad student Helen Lyle unintentionally summons the Candyman. That part's okay. A hook-handed creature made flesh by other people's belief in him. Never in the movie is that established.
Okay, but that description actually explains a lot about what the movie was trying to go for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, knowing that fact is like, okay, now some of the weird elements in this movie make sense. But the movie doesn't actually make that clear, because the movie is a jumbled mishmash of ideas that never quite work together.
Like he's just like a ghost or something.
Yeah.
But that's the description for Candyman. The description for The Lighthouse.
Why don't we just go one at a time? Because you reading the description of Candyman really makes me want to just dive into Candyman right now.
Alright, we're gonna start our deep dive into Candyman.
Our deep dive. The Candyman makes everything he bakes satisfying and delicious.
Talk about your childhood
Wishes.
You can even eat the hook.
The Candyman can. Okay, Candyman. When did this movie come out? 1990. What is it? 1992.
92, I think.
1992 horror movie. That I don't even know how to describe the movie. Why don't you're better at you're better at summarizing the plots than I am. So,
Okay, so
give us a run through.
You want me to give you a brief run through before we give our thoughts on it? Okay. Or maybe not a brief run through, but just
Yeah, this is a pretty weirdly overcomplicated story. So just like
I'll try to make it as simple as sounding as possible, but keep in mind this movie. There were multiple points in this movie where we were so dumbstruck and like our minds were like falling out of our brains as we were watching this, so that we couldn't really keep track of it. So
yeah, there was a lot of moments where we were just like, what is happening?
So the movie opens with this girl and this guy getting freaky. Then they speak into the mirror, the Candyman, 5 times.
Yeah, it's like Bloody Mary. You speak into the name into the mirror, and then he comes out and he kills you.
One of
Sometimes.
those spooky urban legends, but it turns out he's actually real, or at least appears real, because he seems to appear in the mirror behind the girl and kill her. We then cut away to our actual main...
See, it's weird though, because that scene is framed as like somebody telling a story to the main character.
It's almost framed like the movie Ring. I don't know if you've ever seen Ring or Ringu.
Ringu. Oh.
No, both of them. They're both framed in a very similar way to start with.
Okay.
Where it's 2 people talking about an urban legend, and then the urban legend comes real.
Okay.
But it's interesting that... Actually, it's kind of interesting. Then again, I guess the Ring and stuff were kind of based more on, like, Japanese sort of ghost stories, but oh well. That's a different point. That's a different tangent that we could go on about the intersection of how Ring shamelessly rips off the Candyman. But that's a conversation for another story.
Isn't it I guess it's not the other way around. Ring did come after.
Because Ring was like late 90s, Ringu, the Japanese version, was late 90s. The Ring, the American one, was early 2000s. And it's basically shot for it's not really shot for shot. It's more of like inspired by the Ring.
Why are we talking about The Ring and Ringu right now? Back to the plots.
Because I feel like talking about that movie kind of helps inform what my
inform what we're describing, because Candyman is very strange.
Because it kind of helps me inform me about what I think this movie doesn't do as well as it could. But anyway, back to the actual plot of Candyman. So Candyman follows Helen Lyle, apparently that's her name. She's a grad student who's doing research on urban legends, specifically the legend of Candyman, as it has started cropping up in urban communities in, I think, LA.
Yeah.
I think that's where
I do not think... I think it was, like, Chicago. I thought it was Chicago. Yeah.
It didn't really look like Chicago.
Well, it didn't really look like LA either.
Fair enough.
It looked like a fictional city.
It looked like New York, New Cup.
Well, see, okay, the thing is, a lot of the movie takes place in this weird ghetto area that is clearly just, like, not, like, it doesn't look like a real town.
It doesn't even look like a real ghetto.
The buildings are too far apart. No ghetto has the buildings that far apart.
And, like, it's like the buildings are so run down that they don't even look livable.
Yeah, there's a really... Okay, so, the main character, Helen, goes with her friend who's helping her research this. They go to the site where, like, the latest Candyman killing was or something, because there's a bunch of people dying for unexplained reasons, and that's why this Candyman story is getting big. And it's weird because they're roaming through this building that seems... Sorry for, like, interrupting you, but they're roaming through this building that seems like it's abandoned. But then this one woman has an apartment there, and her apartment is like, I mean, it's not, like, it's cramped. Clearly she's not, you know, particularly wealthy, but it looks like a normal apartment. And literally the apartment next door is, like, in, like, a ruined, abandoned building. Like, it's...
The walls are falling apart, the floor, there's graffiti everywhere, like...
It is Chicago. I was right. I don't know how I knew that, but... I feel like they do at some point, because how else could I have known that?
I don't know. I guess that makes sense, because I guess there's like a big, large sort of...
Large, poor
African-American communities in Chicago.
Yeah, and this is that's kind of a big part of the movie, yeah.
It's also, like, not necessarily a big flaw of the movie, it's an example of how the movie is not as well realized.
It's the first example of ideas this movie sets up that it doesn't explore enough, because by making the main character this white woman who's researching...
She is white. She's
yes.
a white girl going to explore these urban communities.
Now her friend who's helping her investigate is black, but
spoilers, she don't make it.
Yeah, she don't make it.
Basically, they find this weird graffiti of, okay, I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but it's something that comes up a lot.
Yes, it's treated as, like, the scariest thing.
So she goes to investigate the mirror where Candyman allegedly popped out of. It turns out it's like a fake wall. So she goes through the fake wall, and she finds this graffiti of a giant face in a hole in the wall.
Yeah, there's a hole in the wall and a giant face graffitied around it with the mouth as the hole.
I can't even begin to describe it. If you know what King Crimson, not the stand, if you know the album cover of King Crimson, that's what it looks like. It's just a ridiculously goofy looking face that's like screaming in agony.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks silly, and the movie will, like, when the main character, because the main character kind of goes insane, you know, horror movie stuff. When she's, like, going insane, it'll, like, show these flashes of the face in the graffiti, as if it's, like, this very scary visual. But it's not. It just kind of looks silly.
It looks really silly. And then, for some... Okay, this is something that, like, they never really bring up again. She finds candy with razor blades in it.
Oh, yeah! Candyman, haha, but that ends up not mattering at all.
And then they never do anything with that. Why is he called the Candyman? He never does anything related to sweets.
His backstory has nothing to do with candy, which was what I was gonna mention earlier. Is his backstory has to do with the race relations element of the plot.
Yeah, so
That by introducing that element, you put your movie at a higher standard of ideas, and then when you don't explore it, it's more noticeable.
So yeah, they get freaked out and get ready to leave. Then they meet the lady who was in the other apartment, the nice apartment building, the nice apartment, but
Yeah, it's not a building. It's literally a nice apartment in the same building as the one with the mouth graffiti and the broken mirror.
Yeah. The only real thing of note there is that they meet a baby, and that becomes, that's gonna become...
That baby becomes a major plot point, unfortunately.
Yeah. Unfortunately. It's basically just... We made a lot of Stan jokes in this episode because I recently finished part 5.
Baby stand. That was not a joke we made. The joke we did make was calling Candyman the Hangman Stan.
The Hangman.
In the end, we basically came to the conclusion that Candyman is the main character's stand.
Linda or something.
Linda. We said her name earlier.
I don't care to remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
Name. She's basically a Karen.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like a self-aware Karen. She's like, she knows that she's got white privilege, and she's mad, and she's like,
She knows to an extent. She mentions it occasionally. She's like, she mentions that at one point she gets ambushed by a thug pretending to be the Candyman, which is a super dumb scene, by the way, because he literally has a hook on his arm and he bops her in the head with the hook like it's a punch. Never in my life have I seen any character use a hook like that. It is completely silly.
I don't even think it could really do a lot of damage with it.
Yeah, he gives her a black eye by punching her with the blunt end of a hook. It's so dumb.
They don't even beat her up until she's near unconscious or left for dead.
Yeah, no, they
beat her up a little and give her a black eye.
They try to intimidate her into leaving, and then the cops basically immediately arrest the guy who did it, and she has a quick line to her black friend about how, black people are dying in this neighborhood all the time, cops barely do anything. One white woman gets beat up, and they're rushing in and putting the place on lockdown. But that's the most... That's the most direct the racial commentary ever gets. It's that one line.
And in a way, it kind of feels like it's kind of one of those things where it's if you're aware of the problem but you're still doing it anyway, are you really doing anything about it, or are you just repurposing that stereotype with a wink and a nod?
Yeah, I don't.
Nah. That is not, that specific idea is not important to the movie. But is certainly something you can have a discussion about.
And I think
internet.
Yes.
Anyway,
so let's continue with the plot.
The black guy gets arrested. Then I don't know if this happens before or after, but right around this time, we find out Candyman's the real Candyman, not the person pretending to be Candyman.
We find out his origin story.
So
which
he was the son of a former slave who managed to make a lot of money somehow. I forget how. Was it candy? No, it was bees, right?
Oh, it wasn't candy or bees. It was shoes. For reference, the bees are a weird aesthetic thing in this movie. The Candyman uses bees to swarm. It's weird. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. The movie opens with a panning shot of a car driving through the city, and then a shot of bees, literally just bees, with the Candyman narrating over it. It's strange.
This movie has 5 different aesthetics for the Candyman, and you can't choose between any of them.
So anyway, that's the Candyman's origins. Well, no, wait, you didn't finish explaining.
He fell in love with a rich white woman. She got pregnant. Her father, being a massive racist asshole, gathered the whole town together to go lynch the Candyman. They cut off his arm, and I think burned him alive, I guess.
Yeah, something. Yeah, they burned him alive, because that, at the end of the movie, yeah.
And then, legend says that, he replaced his hand with a hook.
Yeah. So
and
it's...
that's like the Candyman's signature calling.
So the backstory of the Candyman is explicitly tied to, like, race issues. But the movie just doesn't... The movie doesn't seem to really know how to handle that topic.
Yeah.
It's got a bunch of ideas at once, and it doesn't know how to, like, really elaborate on any of them.
Yeah, and sometimes at least reinforcing really problematic stereotypes.
Yes, the ideas contradict each other and end up, like, not. They end up...
So anyway, after we get that backstory, the real Candyman, the one of legend, appears to confront Helen in a parking lot.
And I'd like to say that aesthetically, he looks like a normal, outside of the bloody hook hand, he looks like a normal guy in a coat.
Yeah, he just looks like he's wearing a fur coat.
They use a voice filter on his dialogue to make him sound menacing and supernatural. But it kind of just is a little silly. Comes across as a little silly when you see this fairly normal-looking black dude in a trench coat.
Here's kind of where the movie starts to go off the rails.
This is where the movie goes bonkers. Before this, I feel like it's a fairly normal horror movie that...
You can kind of predict where it's going to
Yeah,
go.
it's like, it just kind of seems like a fairly normal, mediocre horror movie. There's the cheap, oh, somebody jumped out behind me and I didn't expect them, jump scares everywhere. It's that kind of,
It feels like you can predict exactly where it's going, and then it goes completely off the rails in a way,
but not in a fun way or a good way.
It just in a bizarre way.
In a way that really doesn't make sense.
Strange way.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll try to make it as clear. I'll try to make everything as clear as possible from this point on, but keep in mind I might struggle. So
yes, it gets.
Candyman approaches Helen. Seems to does some weird mind trick to her where she passes out and then wakes up in the woman's apartment from earlier.
The black woman with the nice apartment in the abandoned building.
And then she walks out of the bathroom into the apartment and sees that the dog...
Well, she wakes up covered in blood in the bathroom. She walks out, grabs a hatchet to see who did this to me, where are they? Then she sees...
finds the guard dog decapitated, and the mother
freaking out,
losing her mind
because her baby's missing,
because there's blood everywhere and the baby is gone.
And so then
there's no body, but there's blood everywhere, so
yeah.
we don't know if the baby is even alive anymore.
Mm-hmm. So the mom is hysterical, and she kind of starts grabbing the main character. The main character stabs the mom in the shoulder with the hatchet, and then flips her over. And for a second, it literally looked like, yeah, she was trying to pin her down, but it literally looked like she was about to kill the mom before the cops come in.
Come in right there.
So then of course the cops think she did all this, which they're wrong, obviously, but at the same time, when you have the white woman main character raising a hatchet into the air after stabbing the hysterical, grieving black mom, yeah, it's like her character's not really innocent here. She still seems like the asshole. I don't know. Nope.
So she gets questioned by the police before getting released because
yeah, her husband bails her out, which we should mention because it is relevant to the plot eventually. Her husband is a college professor. The first scene of her and him is she comes to the end of one of his classes.
And
one of
handsy, not handsy, but he's talking kind of flirtatiously with
one of his students, and she's she questions him about it, but she assumes he's not involved. And then the next scene the next couple scenes we see him in, they're kind of teasing that he might be involved with this girl. So but they also show him being pretty genuine. a lot of it. So it's hard to tell whether they're trying to make this husband an asshole or not until, like, the third act of the movie, which we'll get to.
Yeah. So, she gets released from police custody. Then, while she's in her apartment, she gets another nightmare from the Candyman, who's like, "I have the baby. The only way you're gonna get him back is if you take his place."
Yeah.
And then he teleports into her apartment. We're still not entirely sure at this point if he's meant to be like physical and corporeal, or if he's just like an illusion in her head. And her black best friend shows up, worried about her.
Hold on.
The apartment gets killed by Candyman. Candyman then frames for killing her best friend.
Sorry, my camera cut off, so I'm gonna briefly summarize what you just said in case my OBS recording doesn't work. Basically, she gets bailed out. The Candyman shows up. He's like, "Goodbye, you will be mine. I have the baby. Swap with me come with me, and I will release the baby." And then at the same time, her black friend, who she's been investigating this stuff with, shows up, and the Candyman kills her. And once again makes it look like the main character did it.
Candyman, where he can only seem to harm you if you say his name in the mirror 5 times, and the black friend specifically did not say his name 5 times.
Yeah, they kind of the mirror thing is relevant in like the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie, and they.
Is it really relevant in the end of the movie?
No, it's just. It's the last scene, which is stupid, and we'll get into it.
So after she kills her, after she is framed for killing her best friend.
Okay, wait, hold on. I'd just like to pause because I feel like this is a really egregious scene. We have him talking to the white woman, being like, "Come with me and I will release the baby." And he's like talking about this, and then her black friend shows up. The dead black friend trope kicks in hard there, where we have this Candyman who, honestly, you'd think as a character would be after racial vengeance, just refuses to kill the white girl. Through the whole movie, even though she was the one who said Candyman 5 times, he just refuses to kill her, and kills everyone else instead. Almost everybody else.
We kind of find out why he spared her later on, but it also doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
And it is just dumb. So anyway, he once again makes it look like she did it. Her husband is like, "Okay, you need to go." Her husband basically sends her to a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah, she gets committed.
Yeah, she gets committed. And by all accounts, she does seem crazy. At this point in the movie, I was kind of like thinking, I'm like, there is really nothing here that suggests that the Candyman is even a supernatural entity. There is nothing here that suggests that she's not actually just crazy and killing these people. Like, we're seeing everything from her perspective, so there's no reason to really believe that other people aren't right about her. Other than that, this is a movie and she's the main character.
We never actually see Candyman, like, stab anyone or anything. We just see him appear before them, and then, like, we cut away and then we see the carnage.
And he never does anything overtly supernatural or appears in any places that he couldn't realistically get to. Like, up until this point. His next killing is overtly supernatural, and we'll get to that in a second.
So, she gets committed. While she's committed, she has another nightmare where Candyman is like, all you have to do is submit to me, and, like, you can live forever. There's a weird sexual energy to it. He, like, starts trying to reach under her skirt with the hook hand.
Oh god, I forgot about that.
It's weird. It's not...
This is while she's being committed.
Yeah.
There's also... Oh, you know what? I don't even want to talk about that scene. I just remembered... Remember the scene where, like, after the first death, and she's, like, covered in blood, and she's in the police station, and they're like...
Oh, right. The completely unnecessary bloody naked Bloodshot.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that scene. Just, it's completely pointless and it's bad.
Gratuitous and unnecessary.
Yes, and I felt genuinely uncomfortable watching it. Moving on.
Which I guess would mean that, like, they accomplished their job, but you're not feeling uncomfortable because...
Not like the yeah.
You felt uncomfortable because you're like, I don't want to see that Chris have to strip naked, especially when
yeah, you feel uncomfortable for the people, the actors in the scene, not the characters. Which is not, yeah, it's not good. Anyway.
So yeah, after she gets this nightmare, she gets confronted by the head sort of psych, the head doctor.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically like, you're crazy, the Candyman isn't real. I have video of the incident that you're talking about, and it shows that he was never there.
Yeah.
It's all in your head. And then she's like, I can prove to you he's real. And she turns to a nearby mirror and says Candyman.
So then the mirror thing becomes relevant again. Even though the last time she said Candyman 5 times, he didn't show up.
Also, why would he kill... He goes after the guy.
Yeah.
Saying it.
Well, that's what I mean. She's the only one who ever says it, and he never kills her. He kills everyone around her. So yes, he kills the psychiatrist, which is the first killing of his that it's like, okay, there's no way he could have gotten here if he wasn't a supernatural entity. So then...
Especially because we physically see him killing him.
Yeah.
We see him, like, rip through him and pull him out the window.
Yeah. So,
and then we see him unbuckle...
oh yeah, he frees her from her restraints. She breaks out of the hospital, sneaks out. What even happens after that? I've already forgotten.
She goes back to her apartment where she finds out that...
Yes, this is where the husband becomes relevant. The husband is basically completely redecorating the apartment, and this new student, that he may or may not have been sleeping with, definitely he was, because she is there painting the apartment. He's basically starting a new life with her, just assuming that his old wife...
where someone got murdered.
Yeah, that is a good point. So then she comes in, and at this point, this is where the main character really seems like she's just, like, absolutely losing her mind, and she's the killer here. She says to the psychiatrist that she's not capable of killing anyone, but in this scene, she seems like she's about to kill either her husband or the other girl.
But then, like, she runs away to...
Yeah, she realizes, she's like, wait, I'm going crazy, and then she runs away, and...
She runs away to, like, basically, I think, the apartment from the start.
Yeah, she goes back to the ghetto. The weird fake ghetto.
The fake ghetto, which is now even more ramshackle and run down than before.
Yeah.
She confronts a sleeping Candyman in his little den. Then we find out that, like, and then turns out he was not there. He was made of bees or something.
No. Okay, he was there. He just has the ability to, like, swarm bees. There's this really weird sequence where he's like, submit yourself to me, and she's like, fine. And then he has this weird, like, definitely sexual encounter with her where bees swarm out of him and envelop her. And
yeah, that was weird. Like,
that was weird. That was the first indication that he's like, that it's like sex. That scene was the first like major like, okay, this is a sexual thing that this character wants. I made a joke that because before that point we were like, what is Candyman trying to accomplish here? What is his motivations? In that scene, I made a joke that he's just trying to bone another white woman, and then that's basically his actual entire motivation as a monster, which is kind of horrible, but whatever.
Yeah, it's weird racial implications.
Yeah, the implications of it make it almost makes the people who lynched him look like they were in the right, which is horrible.
Where the white women at? Oh my god.
Oh god.
I regret making that joke.
Okay.
So like it's then revealed that she's either descended from his original wife or like just looks a startling amount like her.
Which I think I also made a joke about before, and then it actually ended up being where the movie was going. Because this movie is stupid.
This movie is stupid.
So then she discovers that...
She wakes up after the bee kiss.
Which I thought was killing her, but apparently not.
Yeah, I thought that was basically the end of the movie.
Well, okay, and then the Candyman doesn't free the baby. In fact, he takes...
He goes back on his word, which is like... I know he's supposed to be a villain, I guess, but like, we never had any indication that he wouldn't follow his word.
Yeah. So then she runs out of the building, she goes to this pile of, like, junk. This, like, mountain of junk that the baby is in. Yeah, with the hook. I don't know how she got the hook. I don't remember. I don't care. She goes...
This little kid who we didn't mention earlier...
Oh, yeah, the little kid.
In the apartment building. He sees the hook, thinks it's the Candyman, and so he gathers all of his friends and everyone in the...
To burn down the mound of trash while she's in it with the baby. And at this point I was thinking, because Candyman says some weird cryptic stuff about his congregation. So I was thinking at this point, the twist of the movie, there was a twist, like, oh, so I guess all of these people were actually following Candyman, and they're burning the white woman on purpose.
For like, bringing misery into their life.
Yeah, but then she manages to crawl out of the fire as the Candyman is trying to, like, take her with him in the fire. And she crawls out with the baby, so then we have, it's very white savior.
Yeah, and she literally gets, like, a portrait made of her as, like, the idealized white savior.
She literally is, like, yeah, that's over the credits, isn't it? Yeah. That portrait, yes. It's really bad. It just ends in, like, the purest form of white savior bullshit.
Also, Candyman somehow dies again?
Well, Candyman dies, Candyman's spirit dies in the fire, and we think she survived, but then no, she's dead. The next scene is her funeral, and the entire black community shows up to her funeral, further reinforcing this white savior thing. She literally saved the baby and then died. So...
If it had just been the little kid and the mom, maybe it would have worked.
But it's literally the entire community of the ghetto. It's dumb. I feel like every time the movie seems like it's going to twist in an interesting way, it twists, but in an uninteresting way.
It's truly the predecessor to J.J. Abrams.
That's what I was saying. I joked during the movie. This movie has like 5 mystery boxes, and all of them resolve in conflict with each other. It's really bad.
None of the theme, I'm not someone who, I'm not a film student or whatever, so, while I have a lot of passion for filmmaking and stuff, I don't really have the lexicon or the knowledge or the history to be able to, properly dissect films. But, I feel like I'm pretty skilled for an amateur at being able to, dissect theme and literary meaning and narrative meaning and themes and narratives and stuff like that in films. I struggled to find to understand what the point they were making with this film, because every time I thought I started to come to an answer, the film would either contradict itself or the themes would clash with each other.
Every time. Every single time. We still have to talk about the last scene of the movie, which is horrible. Trevor is the husband of the girl, of the main character, because I don't think we ever said his name.
No. Trevor, Helen's cheating husband, cries in front of the mirror about her. He cries out her name 5 times.
Yeah, he says her name. Helen, 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 Helen. Then she appears.
I feel like I should note, this isn't important, but the girl that he was cheating with the student. She's walking around in the apartment in a white tank top with the most pointy nipples I've ever seen.
They are so pronounced, she might as well not be wearing anything.
She might as well not be wearing a shirt, because they're not just it's not just oh, it's kind of cold, so it's a little pointy, or it's she's horny, so it's very pronounced. It's you can see their
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. We're not saying this as a positive. It's weird.
It's just bizarre.
It's
that
just
this is
bizarre.
happening, like, in the final moments of the
Yeah,
series.
like, why is the end, like, before, like, at the end, we're at the end of the movie, and I'm like, why isn't the movie ended yet? Why are we suddenly focusing on the husband character?
And then suddenly, Helen shows up in the mirror.
Yeah, she's the Candyman now, except,
She's the Candyman.
yeah, she shows up, and then she kills him. So, I feel like they were trying to tell this story of, I feel like they were trying to tell a pseudo-feminist, like, woman rises up against her husband, like, that's one subplot.
That's a subplot.
Another subplot is the racial stuff. Another subplot is the supernatural, am I going crazy stuff. And then there's like 5 other little mini things that are all layered on top of each other. None of them work well, all of them clash.
And like, yeah, like the feminist subplot kind of clashes with the racial subplot because the feminist subplot only gains power by depowering the black people in the story.
Yeah. What a... Like, okay, so...
I thought that, like, the scene with Candyman kissing her with the bees was meant to, like, be her becoming part of the legend. Like she would become part of the Candyman or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like, it was all in her head and now she literally becomes the Candyman.
Well, see, I feel like the
Zoom out, and it's like she's wearing the coat, has the hook.
the
Show up with guns or whatever, and they see the baby in front of them crying, and like they have to like shoot her or whatever.
Yeah, there's so many ways they could do this better. I think you said the movie's getting a remake?
The movie is apparently getting a remake. I forget who's directing it, but she seems to have pretty good credentials, and it's being produced by Jordan Peele of Us and
Get Out. So that's what I feel like. Just
Us and Get Out fame. So I feel like that team is going to be able to bring out the sort of
because
the racial themes and make them stronger.
because as much as we've trashed on this movie, each of the ideas it presents on their own are interesting starts to the story of a movie.
Is that they're underdeveloped.
But when they're all underdeveloped or they develop against each other, it butchers everything. A remake of this movie that smooths out those ideas and actually does something interesting with them, particularly the racial ideas, I think, would be very good.
Because, like, there's a lot of, like, sort of, like, weird racial tones to horror movies, and, like, I feel like Candyman was meant to sort of be a commentary on them.
Yeah, but it's very 1992 commentary on them.
Yeah.
Whereas, especially when you say Jordan Peele is involved, that gives me hope, because all of Jordan Peele's horror stuff has those elements in it. And, like, he's somebody who actually has shown he knows how to use those elements, whereas I feel like the people writing this movie did not.
Yeah.
We should also briefly talk about this movie's presentation style, because I feel like it impressed me at the start, because the panning shot with the opening credits of the car driving was really good.
Shots.
And the music was really good.
Soundtrack.
Yeah, but my problem with it was that opening shot is really cool. It's overhead, cars driving, the music is really good. They reuse that same song and that same trick of making these car sequences, of like making sequences that aren't all that dramatic with music. They reuse that trick over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where the choir singing and the menacing music was like more of a joke than an actually effective thing. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Like at a certain point we were making fun. I would go into the mic and like just make jokes about it, because it wasn't working anymore. Yeah. And it just, Just like all the ideas in the movie, it's cool at the start, but then they never build on it or anything, and so it's just like kind of bad. So yeah,
I will say that, like, while I'm pretty I wouldn't say I'm necessarily down on the movie. I'm just kind of disappointed in it and don't think it works as well as it should.
yeah.
I will say, without a doubt, it is easily one of my favorite of the '90s horror movies, because I do not have a very high opinion of '90s horror.
That's true. 90s horror is...
Everything after Scream just tried to be Scream, and I hate it.
But what about Scary Movie, not the parody?
Not the parody? Oh, you're right. Well, shit, you're right. I guess '90s horror does have at least one good gem in it.
We talked about that one last podcast, so go watch that if you're curious. Or he talked about it.
And in conclusion, fuck Scream.
And, softly fuck Candyman? Fuck with bees? Not the bees!
We'll fuck Candyman gently.
Okay. Alright. Now on to a much better horror movie.
Alright, do we want to stop the recording and, like, take
we can stop the recording real quick, and I can see if I can get OBS to actually, do what I want it to. Alright, so now we're gonna talk about The Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse.
I feel like The Lighthouse and Candyman are similar. Well, they're similar in that they're both horror movies, obviously, but they also both... I feel like they both try to play with audience expectations, except Candyman is horrible at it, and Lighthouse is good. And both movies are kind of confusing, but one is intentionally... Lighthouse is intentionally confusing, and Candyman is just confusing because it's bad.
Yeah. They're both, like you said, they're both sort of obtuse and hard to understand. But one, it feels like that's the intention, and the other, it feels like it's just poor design.
Yeah, exactly.
So here is the brief description of The Lighthouse according to Amazon. Two lighthouse keepers, parentheses, Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, close parentheses, fight each other for survival and sanity on a remote and mysterious New England island in the 1890s. From Robert Eggers, the visionary from Robert Eggers, the visionary filmmaker behind horror masterpiece The Witch, which is actually not written as witch.
The Vavitch.
It's the Vavitch.
Which I actually have seen. I've seen like 10 minutes of The Witch, and then I turned it off.
Ouch.
Do you like The Witch? I don't know. You're more of a horror fan than I am.
I have The Witch on DVD, but I have not yet seen.
Okay. What I saw of it wasn't bad. It was just like I was with a group, and we started watching it, and what we were watching, like, it wasn't bad. It was well made, well acted, but it was very, very intense in a way that, like, A, this doesn't seem like a good movie for a group to casually watch, and B, it just doesn't seem... It's not a movie for me, is the way I'd put it. I don't think it's a bad movie, but it's not a movie for everybody.
Based on the way it sort of seems to be filmed and received, I would kind of describe Witch, I guess, as maybe like one of the sort of early indications that the style of horror in the 2010s was going to be existential horror, bleak, depressing.
That's a good description. That's a good description of both The Witch and The Lighthouse. But strangely, I feel like The Lighthouse, despite being black and white and not widescreen, is more accessible. The Lighthouse, presentation-wise, visually, looks like a movie that could have come out 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is actually, like, I'm not against that idea, but I was skeptical of it before watching the movie, but I think the movie actually justifies why it's presented the way it is.
It also like leads to some really fun visuals.
Yeah, I agree. I think the removal of colors allows you to focus a lot more on the lighting, fittingly because it's the lighthouse. So it's like the use of shadows and light to create atmosphere is much more pronounced because you're not seeing colors. The downside is that the movie is incredibly dark, and we probably should have we probably should have watched it later, like yeah, after the sun went down, because I was basically I was watching it through Amazon Prime Video with my computer plugged in to my TV, and so both screens were playing, and I spent most of it watching the computer screen because my TV, with the glare from the sunlight in my room, was so yeah, I just couldn't see it. And even without the glare from the sunlight, the TV screen just showed it darker. Not sure why. I also feel like the darker... I don't know, you saw it in theaters. Do you remember it being blisteringly dark?
I remember it certainly being dark at times, but I don't remember, I guess, maybe it's just because, like, movie theater screens have, like, so much more sort of light in them.
Yeah.
That it's easier for darks to, like, be kind of washed out. But I do not remember the darks being that dark.
Yeah. And you were telling me, because you were watching it just on your TV, it was pretty dark, wasn't it?
It was pretty dark.
Yeah, I feel like there were 3 levels of darkness. There was your TV, which was probably the right level, my TV, which was too dark, and then my computer screen, which was, I feel like, a little brighter than the movie was meant to be presented. Like, there were scenes where I would switch my eyes to the TV because I liked the way the scene was lit better on there. So it was a weird... I'll probably watch it again at some point at night with lights off, so I can get the best, like, viewing experience. But despite that, I wouldn't really say it impacted my enjoyment of the movie. I think it's still a really good horror movie.
Even the weird aspect ratio didn't affect my viewing it. At least not after, like, the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, you get used to the... Oh, wait. Wait, why did my camera just turn off? Hold on.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's out of space. It's out of space. You know what?
Screw it.
Screw it. OBS.
OBS or die.
OBS or die. I'm pretty sure...
They're only going to get 30 minutes of... No, sorry. They're only going to get an hour of your... I've got an hour, apparently, on my podcast recording.
You know what? I'm just gonna... Let's just talk about the Lighthouse, and I'll check and make sure OBS recorded it right. And I'm just gonna stop using the camera.
So I think you're getting picked up a little bit better.
Really?
Time.
By your separate audio recording? Okay.
Yeah, you're probably still going to be very quiet, but it's probably going to be a bit better.
But so, do you think it's good enough that if for some reason OBS fails again, we can use that?
I don't know.
It might be. I don't know. We are experiencing a lot of annoying technical difficulties trying to do this online. You wouldn't think it would be this much of an issue, considering we're literally just sitting at a computer talking to each other, but we spent about 30 minutes getting his mic to work before we started this
it's bonkers
discussion. And we recorded an entire podcast before this that I now only have slight video snippets of, and an hour, like, I have all of Kirk's audio, but it doesn't pick up my audio. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to dub over that audio at some point and just talk about those movies again with old Kirk's audio. It'll be weird. We'll see.
It's going to be our magnum opus.
Yeah, our magnum opus. God.
We're going to treat it like it's a found footage we're going to treat it like it's a found footage recording of a podcast, and then record our reactions to that podcast.
But yes. Anyway, back to the Lighthouse.
So the Lighthouse, it opens up with our main leads, Ephraim Winslow and Thomas Wake, getting off of a boat onto a lighthouse in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a small island in the middle of the sea. There are no visible landmarks anywhere nearby.
Mm-hmm.
And so Wake, as the elder of the two sort of ship hands or lighthouse handlers, takes leadership and decides, I'm gonna be in charge of the actual light. You're gonna be in charge of everything else. And so he plans the schedule with Ephraim doing all of the busy work in the day, and Wake doing all of the sitting in the lighthouse and basically just jacking off. We basically see him jack off in the movie.
Robert Pattinson's character, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, no. You. I think you mixed up the names. Isn't Ephraim Robin?
Ephraim Winslow is Robert Pattinson. He has many names.
He does go by many names. We'll get into that.
Wake is Willem Dafoe.
Yes, but you're mixing up who was. You said Wake was the one jacking off. That was Ephraim.
How? You're gonna tell me that he was not masturbating?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair. I'm sure they both were at some point.
Especially when those tentacles came out. Mm.
Well, no. Okay, but never mind. Wake. Okay, what I'm trying to say is, you said Wake is the one who we basically see masturbating, but that's Ephraim, because Ephraim is Robert.
We see Ephraim masturbating, and Wake is implied to be masturbating.
Yes, I mean they're alone. They're alone on an island with no one but them for like isn't he canonically working there for a year, and then plus the extra time?
He's supposed to work there for about 4 weeks, and it seems like he's stuck there for like the amount of time he's stuck there seems. It's not clear. It could be. It could be a month. It could be an extra month. It could be an extra 8 months.
It's
could be a matter of days.
Much like most of the movie. It's purposefully unclear.
It's purposely ambiguous, and the lighting and lack of color really helps that.
Yeah.
Spoilers. Able to tell if it's day or night, oftentimes.
Spoilers, by the way. We've kept relatively spoiler light before this, but I just want to stop and mention there will be spoilers real quick, because this is a movie that is best going in knowing very little. I knew basically nothing except I knew even less than what we've already talked about, and so it was just a complete roller coaster ride.
Even me explaining it is probably not going to get across what the movie is actually like.
Yeah.
So you should definitely watch it.
It's a surreal experience. It's a surreal experience, and I think it got robbed of an Oscar nomination.
It got robbed. Horror movies always get robbed.
See, that's interesting, because I feel like Parasite has horror elements, but the fact that it's not a full-on horror movie is why.
Well, I like to call thrillers.
Parasite has more thriller energy.
I like to call thrillers horror movies that are cowards and are not afraid to admit that they are horror movies. I don't think Parasite is coward. I just think that the people who gave it the Oscar were not willing to admit that it is truly a horror movie.
Yeah.
I also have a very broad definition of what horror is. For me, horror is not a genre necessarily. It is merely an emotional response.
I feel like you could.
Cats 2019 can be a horror movie, or
9 that we watched later. I feel like every movie we watched today inspired horror. I mean, that's the purpose of the Fear podcast.
Apartment is definitely a horror movie.
Yep. So, spoilers for the Lighthouse beyond this point.
I don't know if we're gonna put a timestamp anywhere.
I timestamped Rug Cop spoilers, so I'll timestamp Lighthouse spoilers.
So it quickly becomes apparent. Like, it's kind of hard. It's gonna be hard to describe the plot because it's kind of non-linear, but it becomes quickly apparent to Ephraim Winslow that shit is weird on this island. And he begins to become obsessed with trying to get into the lighthouse, the literal light of the lighthouse.
Yeah, the light section that Wake won't let him into.
And Wake is getting increasingly abusive and sort of hard to work with as time progresses. We see them begin to slowly lose their grips on sanity and their relevance and their sort of perceptions of time and space. Wake is, I feel like, it's kind of hard. I'm not going to do like a straight up, like, here's what happens in the movie scene by scene. I'm just because
that's not a fun way to talk about this movie, because scene by scene,
I'm not sure if it's physically possible. Like,
yeah, because scene by scene, if you break it down scene by scene, not that much happens in each individual scene.
It's the collection of scenes.
Yes, it's the atmosphere and the building of tension. This movie creates tension out of nothing. But not in a, that guy walked out and scared the main character, so that's a jump scare way, but in like a...
To play a loud noise because a character showed up, and then we're gonna have a character, then we're gonna set up that there's gonna be a scary thing, and then we're not gonna, and then we're gonna reveal that there isn't a scary thing, and then the character's gonna turn around, and there's the scary thing! Genius! Give me a Oscar. My name is J.J. Michael Abrams.
Anyway,
that's not how this movie works. It's much more atmospheric.
Yeah, this movie is all about atmosphere, all in the atmosphere.
So, like, yeah, we begin to learn more along as the movie goes along that Wake is very, very, very superstitious, it seems. He does not. He believes that it's bad luck to kill a seagull, which Ephraim eventually does, and that's when the movie really starts to turn south. He believes that you need to say a sort of like sailor's prayer before every meal, and he has at least 5 different origin stories for how he got a bad leg, and he changes his story basically every single time that he tells it.
And both characters do this. You start out knowing very little about them, and you learn more and more about them, but you can never trust that anything they're telling you about themselves is true. Really.
Both unreliable narrators.
Yes, they are both unreliable narrators, which adds to the chaos and the tension.
Yeah. So, yeah. Eventually, Ephraim, due to both the combination of Wake's increasing abuse of power and just frustration and sexual tension,
and Ephraim also just has major daddy issues, and that's clear from like the beginning.
He's got issues galore, and they all build up into a head where he's cleaning out like the water source, and then the Ghoul, who's been taunting him the whole film, lands on the water source and laughs in his face, and Ephraim just snaps, grabs the Ghoul, and just beats it to death on a rock. You say
that like this is in the third act, or even halfway through the movie.
This is like maybe 30 minutes in.
Yeah, this is it's the first sign that it's the first sign that Ephraim is not quite right in the head. It's the first major
That's the first sign that we get that Ephraim, by this point, we've gotten a pretty clear understanding that Wake is probably not all there. But this is our first time that we think, oh, Ephraim is maybe even more crazy.
Yeah.
So from this point onwards, the movie goes completely the whole situation goes to shit. The boat that was supposed to pick up Ephraim never arrives. A storm starts to come in that they need to prepare for, and that starts destroying their rations. Ephraim begins to get increasingly more and more drunk. Wake also starts to get more and more drunk. They begin to confide in each other, but they also are not really being honest with each other, so they keep lying to each other. Winslow reveals that he's not actually called Ephraim Winslow. He's actually called Thomas something.
Yeah, Thomas Howard?
He's Thomas Howard. So there's now 2 Thomases on the island. I wonder if that's gonna, if there's gonna be I don't wonder if that's gonna be a reveal. They were the same person or different people, or it's weird. It's not very clear if they're it's purposely ambiguous if Wake is actually a figment of his imagination, or if he was.
Yeah, they do. They play with the idea that Wake might be a figment of his imagination, and it's just him.
Yeah, and that's also emphasized by the fact that they both have the same first name.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what Thomas Howard claims his name is.
Yeah.
His actual name is, and so. I'm not going to go over every scene, but I will talk about one scene in particular because it is absolutely legendary. It is the piece of resistance of this film. So as Thomas and Thomas, I'll just keep calling him Winslow for simplicity's sake.
The movie keeps calling him Winslow to some degree.
As Winslow and Wake are getting drunk up in their bedroom.
Yeah, as they become stranded on the island longer than they were supposed to, they start drinking more and more, and it lends to the craziness.
So when after Winslow sort of confesses, the Wake kind of looks away and then asks him what, and then Winslow goes what, and then Wake goes what? What? And they begin to argue back and forth with each other before Wake shouts, "That's your problem!" And then Winslow goes, "No, that's your problem."
This is
has this massive tirade. This is a single scene in the movie, but I have to talk to you about it because it is the best scene in the movie. And
the Neptune smite ye down. He
Winslow goes on this big speech about how he wants a steak. He wants a bloody raw steak. And that he's so damn desperate for the steak that if he had a steak in his hands right now, he would. And then. Wake, feeling disheartened because he thinks that means Winslow doesn't like his cooking, says, "You don't like me cooking." And then Winslow goes, "Oh, don't be such an old bitch about it." And then Thomas Wake goes, "You're fond of me lobster? I seen it. You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?"
He has to go over this because Kirk can quote this entire scene.
And so, hang on, let me pull it up real quick. Winslow is
well, maybe not the entire scene if he's pulling it up.
I think I'd actually like your garbage that you call cooking. And then Thomas Wake goes off on him. He throws his cup at him and says, "Curse ye, Thomas, avast! Hark! Hark, Triton! Hark! Bellowing bid our father, the Sea King, rise up from the depths, full foul in his fury, black waves teeming with salt foam, to smother this young mouth with pungent slime, to choke ye, engorging your organs till ye turn blue and bloated with bilge and slime, and can scream no more, only when he crowned with slithering tentacle tail and
You're gonna go through the whole thing, aren't you?
Yes. Take up his fell.
This is a solid minute or two of monologuing.
His coral-tinged trident screeches banshee like in the tempest and runs through your gullet, bursting ye a bulge bladder no more, but a bastard bloody fill now. And nothing more for harpies and the souls of the dead sailors to peck and claw and feed upon, only to be lapped up and swallowed by the infinite waters of the dread emperor himself. Forgotten to any man, to any time, forgotten to any god or to devil, forgotten even to the sea, for any stuff or part of Winslow, even any scantling of your soul, is Winslow no more, but that is now the sea itself.
My God.
And then Winslow goes, have it your way. I'm fond of your lobster. Cut away to a different scene.
You know, we didn't need audio of you doing that entire scene, but you know what? Like, we'll take it. We'll accept fear.
I'm glad that it exists.
Oh, God.
I'm glad that it exists.
And your impression isn't even that off, because Wake as a character is very like Yar seaman.
Like, Pattinson is also great in this movie, but Dafoe fucking kills it.
Well, yeah, okay. What I was gonna say is like Dafoe's character is very like almost comically over the top seaman.
Yeah, at some point Winslow literally says you're a goddamn parody of a.
Yeah, and there's the implication that like a lot of the seaman behavior is like exaggerated and fake, which kind of adds to like the because there's the whole sequence where Winslow finally gets a look at the book that Wake has been writing in the whole time, and we never actually get to see what's in the book, but it's implied that, you know, something in there really pisses off Winslow. Something more than just Wake roasting him, because there's a lot of it is Wake saying he's not gonna like, but it's implied there's something else in there that makes Wake a fraud to Winslow. Yeah. We never get to see what. This movie loves not showing you things and letting you interpret. That's part of the like the mystery of it. So,
show don't tell is a big rule in film.
Yeah.
Like, it should also be stated how effective not showing something at all can
be. Even the very end of the movie. Yeah.
So basically, after that dinner scene where.
We'll narrate.
Where Winslow and Wake just go off on each other.
It's
basically everything goes even more off the rails for them. The storm hits. They run out of alcohol, so they have to start drinking the fuel that they use to keep the light running. They go basically insane, like literally, you know, raving, loony, hysterical laughter, insane.
It's great because you get cuts back and forth. You think they're, you know, they have these big confrontations like the one you described the entirety of, and you think that's going to be like a turning point of the plot, but the plot doesn't really have turning points like that. These characters go...
That's just another drop in the bucket.
Yeah, these characters go from being ready to kill each other to drinking together as chums in like scene by scene.
Like, and then they slow dance with each other and almost make out, and then to cover it up and be like, "No homo, bro," they start beating the shit out of each other within the same scene.
Yeah, I'd argue the only point at which they fully go angry at each other and never stop being angry at each other is after
the very ending.
Yeah, when Winslow discovers what's in the book, which we don't get to see, but they have a confrontation. Wake basically dares Winslow to kill him. Winslow
starts just
beating the fuck out of him. He gets Wake.
He beats it so hard that like he sees Wake as the guy as Ephraim Winslow, as the actual Ephraim Winslow, the guy who Thomas didn't help and stole his identity.
Yeah. Was that supposed to be his father?
I think that was supposed to, like, it's. I honestly thought that, like, that both Ephraim Winslow and Thomas Howard were both just personas that he invented, and that was just meant to be him. Like that was meant to be. Like,
see, that's the thing, we don't know. There's so many interpretations.
There's a lot of interpretations that you can put, especially into this specific scene where like he's feeding into Wake, and Wake keeps changing forms.
Yeah, he sees Wake first as the guy that he let fall into the logs. Then he sees Wake as the female mermaid siren that's been haunting him throughout the movie. Then he sees him as King Neptune with tentacles grabbing him and capturing him. So it kind of like brings to a head all the crazy visuals he's seen before. Because they give you little teases of like everything's not supernatural, and then they'll give you little teases of the supernatural, but it's never clear what's actually happening and what's in the mind of crazy Winslow.
Right. And so like and then basically he then just continues to beat him up until like Wake physically cannot fight back anymore. Then he puts a collar around Wake's neck and makes him bark like a dog while dragging
because Wake and Ephraim constantly have called him dog.
Are constantly like compared to dogs.
Yeah.
And so then he takes him out by the
Ye
collar
dog.
to a hole that they dug earlier to dig up some rations that they had stored.
No, I think no. Okay, I don't think that was rations. I think that was specifically the alcohol. Because before that scene, you see them drink alcohol occasionally, but it's clear that they're purposefully withholding it from themselves. After that scene, they just go ham.
They go ham hard.
So I think that's where he keeps his special stash of alcohol for rare, like, weird occasions where he's stuck on the island.
And then, Winslow buries Wake alive, steals the key to the lighthouse.
But he doesn't completely bury Wake, because Wake then comes back.
Wake then comes back swinging an axe that he used earlier to destroy the lifeboat. Hits Winslow in the arm. Winslow just bitch slaps him with the good arm because he's still very beaten up and bloodied by this point, so he's not got a lot.
That and Winslow is just younger and stronger than Wake is.
Like you see Robert Pattinson in a lot of scenes in this movie, and he's like fucking ripped.
Yeah.
So like Winslow is also just much younger and stronger and more physically built than Wake, this old sort of gummy-legged man.
Yeah, Wake literally has a peg leg, so...
Yeah. So then Winslow just takes the axe and just fucking, like, definitively just fucking murders Wake with putting an axe right in his head.
Mm-hmm. And then he climbs up the tower to the light.
Yeah, he reaches the light. The light seems to open up for him, and then he sees what's truly inside the light.
Which we don't see. Only he sees. He
interpret that as.
What did I... Honestly?
Because for me, I interpret that as literally the light. Like, not like as some metaphor, as like literally that's like he was so driven by this object covered in blood, fuel and blood and stuff. Fades off, yeah. And he's screaming in agony. You could not. Especially with, like, the distorted audio that they use. Yeah. Well, yeah. On a beach. Picking at his liver specifically. Because it's a... Like... I didn't find this out until later, a little while ago, but, like... earlier in the film, Wake quotes the myth of Prometheus and Proteus, and so Winslow's death is meant to be sort of symbolically representative of Prometheus, because he's tortured in the same way. This is actually just my second time. Actually, it might be my third. I forget. But, yeah, like he went through all of this and for nothing, and like that would obviously drive him kind of mad because like before he touches the light, he kind of laughs a little bit, like it's, but then like. But that would also explain why the light burns him so hard, because it's probably like a really bright light in there, you know? But if there was supposed to be a deeper meaning to it, it would probably be something symbolic of the fire that Prometheus brought to man. And in that case, it would probably kind of be maybe a less of a sort of Jesus imagery, like I guess the original Prometheus myth was sort of, and more of like a tale of hubris. A tale of hubris where like you're done in by your own greed and ambition. I think sort of. I do think that Ephraim Winslow is the more deranged of the two, but I also think that I'm not entirely sure if Wake is even human. He might literally be like Poseidon. We could, like, it's been like, we've talked about it for about 40 minutes now. Like, there is so much you could talk about with this movie. I don't even know where to begin. We also forgot to mention it earlier, but like, there's a very strong sort of sexual tension between Ephraim and Thomas, and like it really kind of like we said earlier, there's a scene where they almost make out. There's a scene much earlier in the film where Ephraim sees Thomas's ass through his pajamas while he's reshingling the roof, and it all culminates in the scene where he. Yeah, this is definitely a movie that I feel like your interpretation of it will change upon rewatch. It's really good, y'all. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I also liked Joker, but I also know that it's not really doing anything too revolutionary. Yeah.
Hello again.
Alright.
It is I,
So,
Gamer Man.
it is also I, other Gamer Man.
So we've talked about the Lighthouse. We've talked about,
We talked
Candyman.
yeah.
Avast! Hark! Hark!
See,
Avast, ye technical issues plaguing the recording. Hopefully we can get it done now. Sorry for the bad audio on the other part.
yeah. Oh, do you have your backup camera set up?
Yes, my camera is set up again. I cleared up space so we don't have issues.
And OBS isn't in live mode?
No, OBS is not in live mode.
Sweet. So, let's move on to Joe's apartment.
Joe's apartment. Oh god. Fear. 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 Fear.
I can't believe we waited a day to record.
Yeah, we did pause for a little bit while I got my tech stuff figured out, and we came back the next day. I don't know if we collected our thoughts on Joe's apartment, because I don't think there's anything to collect. It's fear. Just read the description of Joe's apartment, if you have it up.
Five in his 50,000 hip new roommates, single-minded mission. What?
Start over.
His 50,000 hip new roommates, single-minded mission is to help him. Not help him doesn't have a space between it, so it's just one word.
Where is this description written? Where are you reading this?
I'm reading this off of Prime Video.
Okay, I'm just gonna Google the movie because this description is nonsensical.
Or not, as Joe learns about sex, bugs, and rock and roll.
I don't know if that's...
This description reads like it was either translated between like 5 different languages before translating
Sex,
back to English.
bugs, and rock and roll.
That's the tagline.
Joe's apartment. I'm just going to read the Wikipedia intro. Joe's Apartment is a 1996 American musical comedy film starring Jerry O'Connell and Megan Ward, and the first film produced by MTV Films. It's, the main focus of the story is the fact that, cockroaches can talk, and the humans this guy, this no-name loser moves into an apartment full of cockroaches that all, like, help him out with his rom-com love story, down on his luck. I don't even know how to describe it. It's very boring. Apparently, the actors providing the roaches' voices are Billy West, Jim Turner, Rick Avils in his final film role before his death. Imagine this being your final movie. And Dave Chappelle.
I can't believe they got like some actual voice talent in this pilot.
And their voices are so pitched up and their voices have the pitch turned up so high you can't even tell it's them.
Yeah.
So all of these cockroaches, like, talk, and they sing multiple times, which, honestly, for me, was probably the best part of the movie. And that's a really bad sign when the singing cockroaches are the best part of the movie.
I wish I could say they were the best part of the movie, but I could barely understand them.
What was the best part of the movie, do you think?
I don't think this movie had a best part.
It's really bad. So, never in all our time doing this have we watched a movie that so immediately was annoying. The movie starts out with a pan shot of the Statue of Liberty in New York. It zooms into the Statue of Liberty's hand or something, and a cockroach is on top of it. And then the cockroach starts singing and flying around, and they do these, like, panning shots over New York as if they were from the cockroach's eye, so the camera's just going, whoa, 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 whoa. And while this loud singing is going on, and I'm, like, frantically turning the volume down, like, God, please. We were screaming fear at the top of our lungs for the whole opening credits, which I don't know if we've ever done for a movie before.
Little did we know that the fear was just beginning.
It was just beginning.
It's like
Yeah.
And I have to compliment Meet the Feebles. You've done something.
Meet the Feebles is the low bar that these movies have to reach.
Oh my god.
And Joe's apartment only maybe passes that. Alright, so let's go into the story.
Okay, so the story focuses on the titular Joe as he arrives in New York to make a new life? Question mark? We don't ever really learn why he's there.
Yeah, it's not like he came there with some career goal in mind. He literally just like, I want to move to the big city. Ha ha ha, I'm a goofball. Aren't I lovable?
Then he gets mugged 3 times
Yes.
in a row.
They do the same joke 3 times in a row at the start of the movie. He's a lot of the movie has narration where he's writing letters to his mom, and so there's like, "Dear Mom, I'm sure I'm gonna have a great time in New York City." Then a mugger comes. They do a face like through the eyes shot of the guy punching Joe, so the camera's shaking around again. Then the guy runs off, steals Joe's stuff. Then another mugger comes out after another little "Dear Mom" monologue, and then they literally repeat the same joke 3 times in a row. And this also makes it obvious the weird, like, obnoxious cinematography of the movie. The movie is filmed in a very obnoxious way. I mentioned earlier it was an MTV produced film. It literally is shot like a 90s music. It's shot like a 90s music video, and it's really annoying. Like, there's tons of like weird in-your-face shots, and like all this shit, and it's like, okay, just calm down, movie. So those 3 jokes in a row really set the stage for the quality of humor we're going for here, and they also set the stage for the obnoxious way the movie is going to be filmed.
Yeah. So after that, we get a montage of Joe looking for apartments before he either gets turned down or just can't afford them. In hilarious fashion, I use hilarious there with the most sarcasm. Then he meets this person who he thinks is homeless and bleeding out, but it's actually just an artist.
It's a performance artist, one of those assholes who's like, I'm a pretend to be dead as a artistic statement, and that character is really not important, but he exists.
But he's important at the start because he's the one who shows Joe, who gets Joe into the cockroach apartment where he starts to...
Yes, okay, so I feel like we need to describe how he comes upon this apartment, because it's very strange. So you want to go? You want to describe, or?
Sure.
So as they are making their way through the city, we cut to this apartment building in the middle of like an empty lot.
Think the movie Up, where there's a demolished lot and like the only thing there is the old house, but with a dingy apartment.
And then we see an old lady like leaving her apartment. We don't know really why yet or anything. And 2 thugs show up and basically try to murder her.
Yeah, they like push her down the stairs, and they show her like tumbling down this circular flight of stairs, and they film it like it's like a comedy thing, like, haha, old woman fall, funny, haha, pratfall, and when they're just trying to murder her, and it's, once again, it's filmed in this weird, obnoxious way, where it's like, aren't we funny? Kinda. And then she lands at the bottom, and she gets up as if nothing happened, which is another joke, and then she walks out of the apartment, and we have Joe and the other guy talking about how, oh yeah, the other guy, the performance artist guy, what's his name? Like, wasn't his name like Walter or something?
I don't fucking know.
I feel like it was Walter. I'm gonna call him Walter for the purposes of this. I don't know if that's his name or not. I'm not looking it up. I don't care. Oh yeah, this Walter character also is like very much discount Rob Schneider. He got up off the ground and he has like the Rob Schneider messy hair, and his character is just as like obnoxious and gross as Rob Schneider, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, interesting." This is like a lost Adam Sandler movie, but no Adam Sandler.
It's an Adam Sandler movie before Adam Sandler was famous.
Mm-hmm. So, the Walter is like, hey, the lady who lives in that apartment, or he's like, hey, the lady that lives in that apartment doesn't have any family, or no. He's like, you're never gonna find an apartment unless you have like, you're never gonna find a cheap rent controlled apartment unless you have family in town. And then the old lady comes out the door of the apartment, and then she dies, which, was it just a heart attack, or did she die from the fall and it was just delayed? I didn't really get that. Yeah, it was weird. But she literally falls on the pavement, throws her keys in the air, and they, like, land in Joe's hands. And then Walter's like, hey, that lady doesn't have any family. You should pretend to be your son so you can get her apartment.
He's not saying this like quietly.
No, yeah, he does say it very loud. And then Joe at first is like, I don't know if I want to do that, but he ends up doing it. And so then he moves into this apartment that he just like stole from a dead old lady.
And this apartment is a complete fucking pigsty.
Yes, this is the titular Joe's apartment.
Even if this wasn't cockroach infested, even for this guy, I'm not sure if even for this cheap asshole who's a fucking pig and gross, I don't know if this would be a very good place to live.
Yeah, well,
Actually,
later...
He seems to be the only resident in this apartment.
Yeah, there's like no one else living in this building, which really makes me wonder why. So there's a whole subplot of the building is being sold off to take that big lot around it and fill it with a maximum security prison.
Yeah.
And it really just raises the question, there's no logical reason that didn't happen already. Like, it's not like the old lady seems to own that property. The landlord owns the property. The landlord who hired the thugs to kill the old lady so they could demolish the property. Why doesn't the landlord just kick her out if he really wants to sell the land?
And he's clearly not, like, if he's willing to murder her, he's clearly not a good guy.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't make any sense why he can't also just kick Joe out. The thugs come in and try to kill Joe, and then they get scared by the cockroaches in a hilarious fashion.
A hilarious fashion, by which we mean the cockroaches swarm onto Joe's face to form a terrifying mask.
Oh god, I forgot about that.
And then, like, I forget what happens next. They either, like, physically swarm around them and, like, pick them up and throw them out of the building.
No, they don't. It's very Home Alone-y. The cockroaches basically set a bunch of traps that all just kind of, like, cartoon balk the bad guys until they leave. It's very Home Alone-y, that
very
sequence.
Violent and murderous.
Yeah.
Like, they end up also falling down the stairs.
Yeah.
And hitting their head on, like, every single one.
They don't die, though.
No.
So then those thugs are gone from the movie for a while, and we move on to Joe living his New York life, and he tries to go get jobs, but they have a fun little montage where every job he gets is ruined because the cockroaches are following him around, swarming on, like, pizzas he's supposed to deliver and stuff. And so then there's, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. So now he's... You're fired. And then he's mad because he can't get a job. And then I guess here's where we go into the romance subplot. I don't know. This subplot starts out because he is riding on a bus, and you hear his narration to his mom, like, "Dear Mom, hopefully I'll find a girl," or something. And then right as that narration finishes, he looks out the bus window and sees this beautiful white blonde girl tending her flowers in a back alley between two businesses, and he's like, and they play like
the generic
Yeah, the generic like love music. And then he just kind of like, and then the bus just goes past, and like that's.
Yeah.
And then that it's like, oh, okay, so we have a love interest, very cool, very fun.
And so, like, then he gets back to his apartment and sees someone get murdered, I think.
Oh, yeah! Another tenant that was in the building, which actually makes no sense because I thought he was on the top floor.
Yeah.
But I guess not.
He's on the top floor.
Right, yeah, the tenant above him, like, falls up, but it's also played as a joke. Like, they're dangled out the window while he's doing something else. It's not even clear whether he sees them. That whole sequence is really weird, because he maybe sees the lady, then he calls 911, can't get a hold of someone. Haha, funny waiting on call joke.
Keeps going back.
Yeah, but then he never actually gets a hold of 911. He starts calling other places instead. He ends up calling the place where the girl he saw worked. So I'm honestly not even sure if he was actually calling 911 to call 911. It almost seemed like he was trying to find this girl by calling, I don't know, wherever he could until he found her. The whole sequence is very weird and didn't make any sense to me.
No.
So
But anyway, where she works is this random call place.
And they do a lot of really, like, over-the-top, like, haha, call center bad, haha, jokes. All the humor is so, like, just in-your-face, over-the-top, simple.
It's exactly what you think it is, but
Yeah.
also done a million times worse.
Yeah, exactly. So he gets a hold of the girl. What even happens after that point? I don't remember.
The girl, he and the girl talk for a little bit. He gets a job. The girl kind of visits the apartment building, not because of Joe, but just because like she's in the area.
She
sees that it's run down and disheveled and decides to plant a garden there.
Yeah, she wants to plant a garden there, but but the conflict is her father is the senator who wants to build the maximum security prison on the lot.
And the resolution to this plot is weird, but we'll get to that later.
Yes, but, it's very strange.
But so while she's planting this garden, Joe is getting a call from his mom that she set him up in an interview with a either toilet making company or like
and the guy who runs the company is like from Joe's hometown.
Yeah.
So then they have this sequence where he's getting interviewed by the guy, and the guy keeps asking him really weird sexual questions about his mom, and every time he answers them, there's like these weird jump cuts. Kirk asked me if the movie was skipping, like, because it looked like the movie was just skipping, but it was this weird. They were trying to show, I think, the passage of time that like this guy had asked him these uncomfortable questions for several hours, because every time one of these weird cuts would happen, the clock in the background would like shift an hour or two. And it's just like a really weird, not funny joke that isn't. It's like barely even clear what the joke is, and it just seems like weird shot to say. It's the weirdest cuts. It'll literally just be like him reacting and then cut to him talking. It was bizarre.
It was bizarre for sure.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
This is the secret.
This is the secret JoJo that the Joestar family doesn't want you to know about. You never learn Joe's last name in this movie, so
it could be Joestar. This is actually Joseph and Holly's son that they had in America, but they're both so disappointed with him that they decided to just abandon him in Iowa or whatever small town he's from.
Yeah.
And like abandon him with like some random lady.
Susie Q.
Oh yeah, Susie Q, not Holly.
Yeah. Holly's his daughter. Yeah.
I forgot that was back when JoJo characters didn't have stand names that were musical references. They just
Yeah.
musical references.
Also, the cockroaches are basically Joe's stand. They're basically like Shigechi's Harvest.
They're shitty Harvest.
If you can't tell, we compare every movie to JoJo's eventually.
It's a good comparison because I feel like
it is. The cockroaches operate very similarly. They even have the annoying high-pitched squeaky voices.
I feel like JoJo offers a very like both weird and entertaining, but also kind of horrifying world.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it is a fair comparison a lot of the time.
Yeah. Put simply, JoJo is fear-induced.
If you're drunk enough or angry enough.
So he shows up. I don't remember how. Oh yeah, he just randomly happens to encounter the girl on the street when
she's planting stuff in the rundown, broken ass lot.
Because before that, they have an encounter before that. Remember?
You're right.
He's putting up posters for Walter's band, which is called Shit, because apparently Walter's last name is Shit, not SCHITT, literally just the word shit.
HIT.
So he's putting up a bunch of posters that say shit. He's supposed to be the drummer in Walter's band soon. I'm
pretty sure he says he can't drum.
The guy asked him, "Can you drum?" And he says no. And then the guy says, "Well, I've got a job for you. You want to come be the drummer?" And it's like, what the hell? So he talks to the girl. He invites her to come see his show. And then she tells him that she really needs fertilizer for the garden. So then there's a montage of him going around the town picking up shit from like horses and dogs and like anywhere he can get his hands on.
Right.
Which is just like, of course that exists in this movie.
Yeah, and that leads to him like going to give her the shit, but then he sees her.
Well, no. Remember, he leaves the shit in his apartment because, oh yeah, he's on the bus. He sees the girl. He sees the girl hug her dad, but he can't see the full picture, so he thinks like some of it's obscured. So he thinks that she has a boyfriend, and that's her boyfriend, and so then he gets all mopey and whiny, and I don't know, lounges about in his apartment for a couple days.
He's like, I don't want to be a simp for a girlfriend who already has someone. I'm not into cuckolding.
But for some reason, while he's moping about in his apartment, he keeps the bag of shit in there. And then, somehow, from the shit grows a very nice flower. How a flower can grow from a bag of shit that's been in an apartment, I don't know. This movie doesn't care.
No, wait, they explain.
Do they? Uh-oh. I think Discord is having issues. Hold on. Sorry. Did you freeze up for a second?
I don't know. Did you?
Yeah, my whole screen freezed for a second. I didn't hear anything you just said. Can you repeat it?
It's explained by the girl when he shows her the flower. Because I guess he's like, he stopped to think about it for a second and he was like, actually, I am into cuckolding. So
he shows her the flower and she's like, this is a special flower that only grows in...
And this is the scene that's taking place in the garden outside his apartment.
Environment.
Oh, wait, in a what environment?
It grows in like a dank, disgusting, rotten environment.
Oh. Okay.
I don't know how...
Alright.
I don't know how the seeds of the plant managed to even get in the shit.
Yeah, there's no... it's literally just a bag of shit. There's no basis for the plant to come out of. Plants just don't magically materialize out of poop.
Yeah, and so he brings her that and the shit, and and then she's like, "Oh, what are those?" Because
he's wearing his gear for the urinal cake company, which is called the acronym spells piss because of course it does.
Yeah. He's a banker in this outfit for some reason.
And you can tell she doesn't really buy it, but she's like, okay.
Like you could have just used the excuse like, "Oh, this is an outfit for the band."
Yeah. I mean, the band's called Shit. Piss and Shit. Ha ha ha. Piss and Shit. So, then he, like, I don't remember, all the urine, she, like, asks for the urinal cakes that he has.
Because, like, they're apparently good for growing things.
So he just gives her all of the urinal cakes. And then he goes back to the company, and they have a really weird scene where the head of the company is being ousted, and he's literally being rolled out of the business in his chair by a bunch of cops, and the urinal cake company is being taken over by a feminine hygiene products company run by weird, evil old ladies who say, "The days of trickle-down economics are over." That's an actual line. And then that scene just kind of ends.
Yeah. It doesn't... I don't understand this movie for a lot of time.
If you can't tell, there are a lot of weird non-sequitur scenes that just don't make sense and aren't funny, and, like, the only purpose of them is to be jokes, but they're not funny. So you're just left wondering, like, why? Like, what's happening?
We also forgot to mention that basically after the break-in scene, pretty much every time that Joe is in the apartment, the cockroaches are having, like, some weird musical number.
Yeah, there's weird cockroach musical number sequences, and they really don't matter to the movie. I'll actually edit in here right now. The way we found this movie to begin with was by an Instagram post someone I follow made that was just of one of the cockroach songs, probably the best cockroach song that. Right?
Yeah, it's the only one that had a melody that I could actually hear.
Yeah. I'll edit in the video because I downloaded it to edit it in because I feel like we can't explain the cockroach musical numbers. They're too strange. You just have to watch them for yourself.
But I don't want to recommend this movie for you to watch.
No, it's not. The cockroach musical sequences are like maybe 10 minutes. It's not. This is not an ironically funny movie. It's just kind of boring and painful for most of it.
It's amazing how, like, disgusting this movie can grow, bad and gross and disgusting this movie can be, despite how uninteresting it is.
Yeah, like, at least Meet the Feebles was interesting.
Interesting and terrible.
Yeah.
Interesting. This is like, it's just like, what's the grossest animal companion we can give our main hero? I know, cockroaches.
Yeah.
People love cockroaches, right, guys?
So then, you know, so the girl comes to see the band perform. Turns out the band was another performance art stunt where where the entire art statement is making fun of how bad Joe is at drumming. And he's like, Walter's like, rock and roll is dead because Joe sucks. And it's like, it doesn't make any sense. For some reason, everyone there laughs, including the friend that the lead girl brought with her. everyone there laughs at him except the lead girl because she's like, she is the most like docile, peaceful, friendly, sweet character.
She's like generic ass, fucking nice girl love interest character.
And she's not even like, you said manic pixie dream girl at one point, and then I pointed out she's not even quirky or weird enough to be a manic pixie dream girl.
She's just dream girl. She's
Yeah.
not manic or pixie.
Yeah, she's literally just like the dream girl for a loser guy like Joe. Like this girl who will never question any of the weird shit. The only time she really shows active... The only time she really gets pissed off at him is after, you know, when she visits his apartment and that sequence ends in a bunch of cockroaches falling all over her.
Which is amazing because that leads to a...
Yeah, she rushes out of the apartment, sees that the thugs burned down her garden, and says, "My dad was right. This place should be a prison," and then storms off. And literally, it's so bad because the reason the dad was saying that it should be a prison is that, "Have you seen that area? It's like a prison already." That's literally what he said to her. So, by agreeing with that, like, by saying he was right, just because you had one bad date experience, it literally makes her look like such a shitty, elitist, upper-class asshole.
Our main female lead believes in incarceration and prison fuck. What's the
Prison fuck.
prison fuck? What's the term for like people who like don't have a choice to get into crime because of their circumstances?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. She definitely supports gentrification, I'll say that.
She very much supports.
So, and there was already some signs earlier on in the movie that she's like this really naive, privileged character, but that scene just like
She's
makes it really obvious.
She's just privileged.
Yeah,
She's just a privileged asshole.
yeah. And
the rest of the movie basically moping and doping about her lost flower garden
until Joe's cockroaches magically solve her problem.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, but when she visits his apartment, the apartment's so gross and dingy that, like,
This should have been an immediate red flag.
yeah, like, even Joe tells the cockroaches to get out and stay out while she's here, and it's like, even if the cockroaches aren't there, he did spruce up the place quite a bit for her, though, I will say. Not enough to, like, not be a red flag, realistically, but...
He spruced it up about as much as you could.
And especially because you see her apartment at the end of the movie, and it is, like, so rich, upper class. Like, it's this huge apartment. And it's like, she would... Even if he made his apartment look picture perfect, she seems like the type of person that would be uncomfortable even being in that neighborhood.
Yeah. Weird connection of urban disrepair and disillusionment.
Yeah, both Candyman and this movie have pretty white, blonde female characters who frequently exist in urban ghetto areas where they seem woefully overprivileged to be there and unprepared to, yeah.
And unhappy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but that's just one of many problems with this movie. Do you remember the weird sequence right before she visits his apartment where the bugs are having a party in the bathroom and they're making music with the toilet and the sink? And they're singing about "Take Me to Funky Towel." I don't know.
Oh my god! And we forgot about like the scene where like Joe and the girl are about to. I don't even know her name. Just girl.
I don't know her name either. It doesn't matter. I never. Girl.
Are about to make out in the apartment, and like the cockroaches are like in light above them, and the light falls,
Yeah, that's how she ends up getting covered in cockroaches.
It is nightmare fuel.
Yeah, everything about this movie is nightmare fuel.
It is hilarious. It's so funny because it's not even like, I wouldn't even call it that scary. It's just so fucking like incompetent and just
gross
and like didn't even think through any of what's going on for like a single second.
Yeah, speaking of not thinking through what's going on, let's talk about how the cockroaches solve our protagonist's problem. The garden has been burned, the thugs have burned Joe's apartment to the ground. Joe barely makes it out alive. Now, how are the cockroaches going to solve this problem?
Do we not want to talk about how Joe and the cockroaches turn against each other?
Oh yeah, that happens right before the apartment gets burned down. They turn against each other because he's mad that they ruined his date. The cockroaches all tie him up somehow, and they're gonna,
basically murder him, I think.
Yeah, I guess, but it doesn't matter because, like, the scene after, the cockroaches decide they want to help him again.
For some reason, because, like, they don't even, like, Joe doesn't even help them escape.
Yeah, he made them,
Joe just gets out independently.
The only possible motivation is that they need a new place to live, and they think Joe will provide them with that, but there's not much reason to believe he will. And they just tried to murder him, and it's telling that I completely forgot that even happened, and you had to remind me. It pretty much only happens so you can have the end of second act conflict between main character and his buddy, because that's how all cliche movie storytelling goes.
So for the entire basic resolution of the conflict, Joe is passed out on the burnout lawn as the cockroaches are going around town gathering everything they need to like actually make the garden. Like they somehow get the deed to the property, the land of both of the apartment and around the apartment. I don't know where they got that. Maybe from the asshole politician or landowner or whoever the fuck is the girl's.
But how they even knew where to get it? These cockroaches are like omnipotent.
Yeah, they're both the most powerful stand and the most useless stand.
It's also implied that like they're not the only cockroaches that can talk, because at certain points they watch weird cockroach TV shows, which are very like, those sequences are very like. Have you ever watched Rick and Morty?
Yeah.
You know the weird episodes where it's just them watching the interdimensional TV? Same vibe, but like 10 times less funny, and I don't even think those interdimensional TV episodes are that funny, so the fact that this is 10 times less funny is really bad.
Have we already been talking about this fucking thing for 40 minutes?
Apparently so. Apparently we have more to say about Joe's apartment than we thought.
I don't know how. It's not even like I thought when we first watched this, I thought, oh my god, this is Meet the Feebles level of terrible. But now that I've had a few days to think about it, it's not. It's just bad comedy.
Yeah, it's not Meet the Feebles level of terrible. It's also not Meet the
level of disgusting, or at least it's comparable to Meet the Feebles in level of like sheer amount of bad, gross badness or whatever. But it's not like anywhere near as terrible.
It's also not nearly as memorable. Meet the Feebles is something we will never forget. I don't know if Joe's apartment will stick with us for that long. As you can see, we watched it 2 days ago, and I'm already struggling to remember the plot.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, the cockroaches solve everything mainly by using a giant fucking.
They find the owner of the urinal cake company who's homeless, take his giant urinal cake sign, which as far as I thought wasn't even a real urinal cake. They roll it to the empty lot, roll it into a puddle of water that is there. The urinal cake instantly transforms the entire lot into a beautiful, gorgeous garden.
And so this happens basically the politician.
And the landlord, and everybody is showing up to, like, demolish the place and build the prison.
And for some reason, first the girl was like, oh, the garden is real. And for some reason, her father is...
The politician just goes, oh, this garden will be better for the city than a prison anyway.
It's like, your whole thing, this whole movie, was you wanted to demolish the building. Like, it's not like you were forced to do this, you wanted to.
Yeah, and it literally makes no sense. I feel like when the urinal cake thing happens, that's where I could, like, the movie already wasn't putting in any effort before, but at that point I felt like the movie was literally just like, okay, rush along, let's finish this, let's end this, let it end.
Gave up at that point.
Completely gave up. The landlord and his thugs get cartoons sucked down a manhole that the cockroaches were covering up. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they do, like, cartoon stretch faces, which, that's such a weird bad 90s comedy visual effect. I feel like, when did The Mask come out? Because I feel like The Mask did that.
Either a year before or after this.
Okay, see, I feel like The Mask did that, and then other bad 90s comedies tried to do the same cartoon stretch face gag, but it only works if you're using Jim Carrey, and it only works in that very specific scenario of Jim Carrey as this supernatural masked being. It doesn't work if you just randomly make characters' faces stretch all cartoony.
The Mask came out in 94.
So this... Who knew The Mask copied Joe's Apartment?
No. Joe's Apartment copied The Mask.
Oh, wait, when did Joe's Apartment come?
96.
Oh, never mind. Joe's Apartment isn't original.
I know it definitely feels early 90s as fuck with its terrible, with its pretty bad CGI.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah.
But it is definitely...
I actually do, one pseudo-positive thing I will say is I think I like some of the creativity where a lot of times when the cockroaches are talking, you don't see them talk, you see them, like, moving objects around as they're talking. It's kind of clever, but it also gets irritating after a bit. Like, there's something irritating about it after it happens a few times.
Irritating because it's still their voices.
Yeah, it's still their annoying, pitched up, obnoxious... They have them all talking, like, fast-talking comedy routines, which reminds me of the scene where there's a cat, and one of the cockroaches is wearing a cowboy outfit and lassos the cat, and you know what? We don't need to talk about that scene anymore. I just remembered that it existed.
I don't even remember that scene.
It's not worth remembering. Don't worry about it.
Is that the scene where the guy throws the cat out the window?
Yes, that's how the scene ends. Joe throws the cat out the window, and then they say, oh, Joe saved us!
Okay, so the movie ends with Joe moving into the girl's apartment. For some reason, she decides to take him back, and for some reason, he's cool moving in there. The cockroaches follow him, but the girl is cool with it now.
And then we have a fun, very, very PG sex scene between the two, where they're basically just rolling around on the ground because it didn't even look like she had a real bed.
No.
And they're doing that while the cockroaches are singing their one last big musical number.
And they're crawling all over them.
Yeah, and by this point I'm just like, end movie, end. I was feeling much the same way as when Cats reached its end, and there was the whole Cat is not a dog song, and I was just like, let the movie end, please. Same feeling.
Same feeling.
And then they, like, zoom... And then the last shot... Isn't the last shot, like, another one of those flying over New York weird cockroach perspective shots?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and then they cut to credits where the cockroaches are still singing. The cockroaches sing the credits, and at that point we both turned off the movie immediately.
We were like, I don't care if there's more jokes to follow.
I don't care if there's a Joe's Apartment post-credits scene that sets up the bad 90s comedy cinematic universe. We're not watching anymore.
You roll the credits, that means it's time to leave.
exactly. I don't understand how anyone could have gone to see this movie in theaters and not walked out at the extremely annoying opening of the cockroaches singing and flying around New York. Like, it was literally so loud and abrasive and annoying and, like, irritating that I can't imagine seeing that in a movie theater and not just bolting out.
I have never walked out of a single movie, like, because, you know, like, I bought a ticket. I might as well stay to suffer.
Yeah.
I would have walked out of
Yeah.
opening. I have to imagine that this movie is even worse if you watch it in, like, a big group, like in a movie theater or something.
Oh, good lord.
But, yeah.
I wonder, did this movie even get a theatrical release?
I doubt it.
Let me see.
Does not seem like it would. But this is also MTV's first movie, so you would figure they would be like, they would want to push it, you know?
I'm looking to see if it...
Fuck this movie.
Reception. Even with the enthusiastic billing as MTV's first feature movie and the support of the company, Joe's Apartment bombed when it opened on July 26, 1996. Opening to 1,512 theaters, but earning a dismal $1.8 million. The film closed all screenings in the middle of August and finished with only $4.6 million. Reviews were almost universally negative. Roger Ebert gave the film 1 star out of 4, stating, "Joe's Apartment would be a very bad comedy even without the roaches, but it would not be a disgusting one. No, wait, I take that back. Even without the roaches, we would still have the subplot involving the pink disinfectant urinal cakes."
I mean, maybe, like, I don't know. Maybe my levels of disgust have been neutered ever since Meet the Feebles, but, like,
Oh, that's right! You know, I'm reading this and I'm reminding that one of the things the roaches were watching on TV was, like, weird roach porn.
Fuck.
So that was very Meet the Feebles. That was a very Meet the Feebles moment.
Every time I remember this movie, it gets worse.
No, it's so funny. We've been recording this, and every new thing we remember about the movie is a new, like, fear moment.
How is this going to be our longest section?
Are you serious?
It's like 50 minutes.
What the fuck? Why did we spend so long talking about Joe's Apartment? Please be my bug.
If you can't tell, this is definitely the movie we're going to be exercising this episode.
Yes. Alright, we've talked about this movie for far too long. We're moving on to 9 now.
Okay, you ready? Alright. So let's talk about 9. I pulled up the description on Netflix.
Our final movie of the podcast. I think this is easily the longest podcast we've ever recorded. Oh god.
Absolutely. We're probably going to chop it down a bit, but still.
Yeah, I don't even know. I might split it into two. I might split it into 2 uploads and then upload it together as one afterward. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. So, fuck. 9 is an animated movie from the year 2009 that debuted in September 9th. So
999.
In the distant future, evil machines rule worlds about to be extinct. Are ragdolls the only hope for survival? That's a fucking horrible description.
Are ragdolls the... Okay, so let's actually explain the movie because that's useless.
So this movie is about basically I guess do you want to do the proper plot first or like the backstory plot first?
You know what? Let's just explain the backstory. I'm not too
the backstory is this is set during like the rise of a fascist regime, I think in America, starring a chancellor.
Yeah, it's definitely. There's nothing that actively says there's fascism going on, but when you make it a chancellor, it's like, okay, I see where you're going.
With a red symbol on their arm.
Yeah.
And with black highlights, it's pretty clear that's fascism.
So basically, he forces this scientist to create
like the scientist seems to think he's just creating like an AI. But
I think the scientist creates an AI to help people, and then the chancellor takes it, uses it for nefarious purposes, and then discredits the scientist when the machine goes awry and starts rebelling.
So the scientist, in order to create this AI, he put a little bit of his own mind into it, using like I think Irish runes or something.
Yeah, there's these weird runes that he like transfers his soul. I feel like it was more of his soul specifically.
Well, it might have been his soul, but like it's
okay. Well, no. Actually, now that I think about it, the whole point was the robot didn't have a soul, and then he makes these rag dolls that he imbues with life and imbues with a part of his soul, and I feel like that's his like last-ditch effort for humanity to carry on when he sees that the world is getting destroyed.
Because the robot turns on humanity and starts a war with humanity, and the two basically wipe each other out.
And the movie is told from these ragdolls' perspective when they're waking up, particularly the ragdoll 9, because each of them has a number. He wakes up way after the other ones, and so he's discovering this information. So the backstory we're explaining is explained over the course of the movie.
Yeah, we don't get the full backstory until basically the very end.
So yeah, technically spoilers, but I'm not like, I don't know. I feel like this is the easiest way to talk about the movie. Talking about it in movie order is just kind of difficult.
In a linear fashion rather than in a narrative fashion.
Mm-hmm. So 9 wakes up, he meets 2. 2 gets captured by 2 gives 9 a... At first, 9 can't talk. He doesn't have a voice box, and then 2 like hooks him up with one. And then 2 kind of basically like lets himself get captured by this mechanical beast thing. Not the main machine that the scientist made, the smaller one.
Like it's like a smaller machine that the big machine, but the big machine seems to be out of power at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's only this machine left. And so, so 2 gets captured, 9 gets found by, I think, 4. No, not 4.
5.
I think 5.
5. Who's missing an eye.
He does some repairs on 9 because 9 got a little bit damaged during the scuffle.
And then they go back to the leader of the group, 1, who explains some backstory about how the rest of the ragdolls have been living in hiding for however many years it's been.
Yeah. We should also mention that 9, after getting created, found like a little charm. The little charm that the scientist used to put his soul into the ragdoll. And he keeps that with him basically until shit goes down.
Mm-hmm.
So, 9 argues with 1 that they need to go rescue 2. Not 1 says that 2 is a lost cause.
Yeah, 1's like the we need to hide, we can't save anyone. Pragmatic. Mm-hmm.
He's also kind of an asshole, but mostly pragmatic.
I feel like the movie does... This is one criticism I have of the movie. They do kind of a bad job of developing his character. Like, they keep moving 1 into the less asshole form, but then every time they take on a new task, there's always a short conflict of 1 being like, don't do that, and 9 being like, I'm gonna do it anyway. And it just kind of and that became irritating after a while. Like, when you get to the 3rd act and they're still arguing about what to do, it's like, just figure it out.
Yeah. That's honestly, I think a problem you can make with like a lot of the characters is that like some of them have interesting personality types, but they're very underdeveloped.
Yeah. They all are pretty like stock, which in a way kind of makes sense because basically these characters are all pieces of the scientist's soul, so they're almost like not complete people.
Yeah, but at the same time, you wish that like that would be kind of if that was the case, you would kind of wish that the ragdolls would work together better as a unit.
Yeah.
Which they do in a practical sense, but not in a sort of personality sense. Like when they come together, it doesn't really make the characters seem stronger. It just makes them. If anything, it just highlights their weaknesses.
I feel like we're starting on a very critical note. I would like to say that I really enjoy this movie.
I think it's a good movie. I just also think that there's a lot of things that are not spectacular about it at all.
Yeah, it could definitely be improved a lot, but I feel like it's an animated movie that ostensibly you could show to kids. Like there's no graphic gore, but
there is a lot of graphic imagery, so they would probably not appreciate it.
I mean, I feel like it's only slightly less kid friendly than something like Coraline.
Oh yeah, probably.
And they're definitely
it's like sort of right in that sweet spot between like Coraline and like maybe like the Marvel movies, where it's like there's a lot of weird like violence in those movies, but at the same time they're basically kid friendly.
But I like that 9 is not. It's not afraid to go pretty dark with the post-apocalyptic theming.
I just had a terrible thought. Imagine if to get their PG-13, one of the characters had said "fuck."
That would have been so dumb. One thing I like about the movie, and I mentioned early on, is it's very like it's not exactly dialogue light, but the dialogue comes in when it needs to, and there's not a lot of extra quips or jokes or lines or anything like that. They do a lot of showing and not telling. It was very refreshing after watching Joe's Apartment, where the characters never shut up and the cockroaches were constantly screaming over each other.
Yeah. It's very much
like the first 10 minutes only has like a few lines of dialogue, honestly.
Yeah, it's very sort of practical with its use of dialogue. It only really ever uses dialogue when it needs to move the plot or exposition forward.
Yeah.
And mostly has characters like interact with each other when they need to sort of build character in a way. Like they'll show that 9 is the clever one by having him turn a light bulb into like this makeshift staff.
You say 9 is the clever one, but remember what he does after they save 2?
Okay, let me put it this way: 9 is clearly the scientist's like
curious inventor brain,
where he doesn't really, where consequences don't really matter as much as the possibility for knowledge matters.
That's a good description of the character because he does feel like he's very. I'd say 9's character flaw is he's maybe a little too flippant and fearless about consequences. Like that's where the conflict between him and 1 comes from. And while I'd say 9 is mostly right, way more right than 1, there are parts of the movie where it feels like maybe you should have listened to 1, particularly the third act.
But also, case in point, they go to rescue 9 and 5 go to rescue 2. They basically accomplish that with the help of 7.
They find 7, who everybody thought was dead.
Yeah, 7 shows up, helps them because she also got pissed with the way 1 was running things and seemed to just go off on her own.
Yeah, she's like a warrior type.
Destroys the smaller machine, but 9, in his infinite curiosity, uses the charm to activate the larger machine. And the larger machine I'd like to point out that before they killed the small monster, it got the charm, and 9 literally saw the small monster trying to put the charm into this big thing. So he really shouldn't have done it, but like his curiosity gets the best of him. And then the machine basically can suck out their souls. As far as I can tell, that's really only the only way these ragdolls can die. Yeah.
Because you see them, I think you see them get impaled by like metal stuff at certain points.
Yeah, because they really are just like metal skeletons and ragdoll sack bodies.
Yeah. So 2's soul basically gets sucked into this machine.
The machine powers up,
thereby kind of rendering the saving of him a little pointless, but whatever.
Yeah. So
we were talking about it. The scene would be better if the monster put the charm in, and then 9 like walked up to it, like what does this do? And he tried to pull it out or something, and that's how it got activated. That would have been better. Small change, but that would have made the scene work a little better. Yeah. So anyway, this machine wakes up, chases them. Yeah, kills 2.
And so 5, 7, and 9. Oh god, I just realized that.
Fucking, it's the odd number ones. 5, 7, and 9.
Well, and then 2. There's also 7. There's also 3 and 4 who we meet, who are basically 7's sidekicks. 3 plus 4 equals 7.
Yeah, 5 and 9 meet 3 and 4 because 7 takes them to her hideout to cool off before 5 and 9 return to 1. They find out a bit more about the charm and the machine. They don't really find out about the charm, but they find out about the machine.
They find out about the runes. They see the runes, and 5 makes a connection that 6, who's like this oracle-ish character, was drawing those runes. And so then they go back to 1. They start figuring out what's going on. I almost don't want to go through the entire movie plot beat by plot beat, because I feel like it's just not... That's not a very interesting way to talk about it.
So, like, yeah.
The main point of going plot beat by plot beat is so we can complain about the beats, but that's not necessary for this movie.
Yeah, so they get attacked at 1's hideout. 7 saves them. 7 takes them back to her hideout. They get attacked there as well. I feel like this is an interesting attack to mention because...
Yeah, this one's interesting because it's...
uses 2's dead body.
It's basically this, like, machine snake that's built out of, like, 2's body at the head, and they use, like, the body's eyes to, like, hypnotize the other characters and then ensnare them in this, like, web. It's really creepy. I'd say that's probably the creepiest, least kid-friendly visual element in this movie. It's just this snake monster.
It looks like it's like a villain from... It looks like one of the enemies from Silent Hill or something.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy.
This massive doll parts and sack and metal.
Yeah. So they then... So that snake thing, it captures 8, who's this big thug that works for 1. By far the least important. It captures 8, it captures 5, doesn't it? Oh no, 7. It captures 7. So then they have to go rescue them. I will say, you don't notice it when you're watching the movie, but when we're describing the plot, I'm realizing a lot of this movie is just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This character gets captured, rescue them. This character gets captured, rescue them. Bigger threat. It's almost...
We mentioned that in the movie where it got really predictable, really formulaic and predictable, especially by the 3rd act, where it's like, we have to do thing. No, we can't do thing. And then 9's like, I'm gonna go do the thing.
Yeah. But I feel like the movie is good enough at presenting it that I didn't fully notice how repetitive it was when we were watching it, but I definitely notice it more thinking back on the movie. And I think that's probably I feel like in terms of dark animated movies, this one is not very well remembered, and I feel like things like that are probably why. Like, there's a lot of potential in the idea and the concept of the world, but there's just some sort of weird... It's almost video gamey, the way the story is being told. With this back and forth and back and forth and backtracking and, like, this person gets captured, now we gotta go rescue them, kind of thing. I also don't... I also...
I could have sworn that this movie got a video game.
I mean, there probably... I'll look it up. There probably is a video game.
No,
I doubt it's a good video game, but
it's literally just the number 9.
yeah. Apparently, there's a game called 9: The Last Resort from 1996, produced by Robert De Niro. That is not connected to this movie at all, but it's the first thing I got when I searched 9 video game.
No, all non-movies called 9 are connected. They're part of the 9 cinematic...
The cinematic 9-verse.
Yeah. And the movie I Am Number 4 is a prequel. It's an alternate universe prequel. Can you believe that, like, side note, God, do you remember I Am Number 4?
Is that the Will Smith movie?
No.
What the hell is I Am Number 4?
It's like a young adult sort of Percy Jackson or... It actually reminds me a lot of Divergent, where it's like...
This looks bad. This looks bad. I just looked it up. This looks questionable. Produced by Michael Bay.
Oh no.
Okay, you know what? I feel like that's a topic of a future podcast, as much as I hate to say it. It's not a movie to talk about right now. Back to 9. The other thing that, for me, kind of brought 9 down a peg is I don't really like the third act twist.
No.
Dude,
So
hold on.
Twist is they go to rescue.
Hold on a second. My camera turned off. It's all. I've got it. I've just got to reset it for a second, and then I'll.
All right.
Get back.
Do you know when it turned off, or was it like?
I think it literally just turned off like a second ago, so we should be fine.
Alright. Gamer.
Keep going.
Alright, so, they go to rescue 8 and 7. 8 gets, killed, but 7, they manage to rescue 7, and, they also end up basically blowing up the factory that the giant robot is in, which they think kills it. To be fair, it's a giant explosion, so they're probably right in thinking it kills it.
Yeah, it doesn't kill it. That's not... Okay, the thing I had an issue with was...
No. So,
yeah.
So 5 sees that the robot is escaping. He's, like, coming towards them. He runs to warn them. He dies basically right in front of them. They all run away. 6 also gets killed at this point because he's like, go back to the source. He's like, you can't destroy it if you destroy
Where the scientist was.
Yeah, they make a vow at this point that they needed to destroy the robot.
Everyone except 9, who now doesn't want to destroy the robot and now wants to save the friends that are trapped inside, which, in theory, sounds good, but the problem is, I don't want to go into all the details of the final battle, but basically, you get to the end of the movie and you find out that he destroys the robot by sucking the other dead ragdoll character's souls out of the robot. Because I feel like the souls are powering it, I think, somehow.
Yeah, I think so.
But the thing is, that doesn't actually save them. It just, like, they have a funeral scene at the end where those souls are ascending to heaven. So it kind of, like, in theory, it all makes sense, and I appreciate that the movie's willing to let characters, like, die and stay dead, but the entire idea behind 9 telling them to not kill the thing, is that they can bring their friends back, but they really can't.
It's basically just like whenever you see the souls of someone die, and I hate to bring up JoJo's again, but it's basically just when you see the soul of someone die in JoJo.
Yeah.
Like, you can maybe interact with the soul, and maybe they'll be able to hand you something.
Yeah, and it just feels like if 9 didn't decide that he wanted to save them, then 5, 6, 1 dies too at the end. He sacrifices himself, which I actually think is a good resolution for that character. But I think I wish they had just had it be. I wish they had just had it be. We don't know how to destroy this robot, so we need to go to the source to figure out how to destroy the robot. And then once we do, the plot goes essentially the same, except that they have to figure out how to destroy the robot. The way they do it here, it makes it so everybody finally gets on board with Nine's mission of kill the robot, at the same time that Nine decides, wait, no, we can't kill the robot. So then you get more bickering between 1 and 9, and you get, like, weird rushed I don't know. I didn't like that whole section of the movie very much.
It's not great.
There's a lot of rushed interaction, and it just felt very repetitive and kind of annoying. And then the resolution that they don't actually come back just makes 9 look like kind of reckless. Like, it reinforces the character flaw of his I mentioned earlier, that he's very reckless.
Yeah, and he never really gets challenged on his recklessness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people end up dying because of it, but he never, like, stops to think, maybe I shouldn't be doing something so reckless. He can, it's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna talk briefly about my problems with Captain America. It's kind of like in Captain America, throughout basically most of his time in the MCU, where he'll be mentally challenged on his beliefs. He'll mentally be challenged on his flaws, but he'll never actually have to face the repercussions of his actions. And he'll never have to stop and actually consider if he'll never have to stop and change what he's doing because he doesn't know what he's doing is right. He will always be put in the right because he is Captain America.
That's a good analogy, although honestly, I would say that happens to Iron Man a little more.
But I think with Iron Man, what saves it is that Iron Man is always doing things because he thinks he's, like, wrong. He thinks what he has done up to now is wrong and is constantly trying to change for the better.
Yeah, you're right.
Iron Man is someone who wants to do the right thing and constantly fails to. Captain America is someone who just does the right thing.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And I do feel like the movie paints 9 as always doing the right thing, even when sometimes his decisions were maybe not the right ones.
Yeah. It's weird.
It's a weird mixed bag of a movie. I really like dark animated movies and stuff, but I feel like there are better ones out there to watch.
Because, this is like a dark animated movie made around 2009 when traditional 2D animation was considered dead and most normal 3D animation was considered just kid shit.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting.
It was probably a nice change of pace for when it came out.
Yeah. I wish the movie was a little better than it was, because if it was, it'd probably have a strong cult classic status.
But as it is right now, like, I would guess I would call it the best of what we got, maybe.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'd put it on the same. I mean, we talked about Wizards in the last podcast. I kind of feel like this is in the realm of adult-ish animation. This is forgotten sort of adult. Yeah, this is the same level of Forgotten and around the same level of quality. I'd say I like it a little better, but
it's the same level of quality, but in different ways.
Yeah, in very different ways. Nine's flaw is maybe being a little too traditional, despite its interesting stuff, and Wizard's flaw is, maybe being a little too out there.
Yeah, weirdly enough, Wizards Wizards does have an interesting world. It's funny, I didn't think this when I first watched it, but after, rewatches and stuff, I would honestly argue that I think its storytelling is maybe its strongest aspect, which is weird. is a lot better. But I'm not really fond of
the way it tells its story. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We were comparing it a lot to Wall-E while we were watching it, but we haven't compared it to that once in this podcast. I think
Wall-E is a good comparison for the world itself, but I think
yeah,
it's a comparison for like the overall quality and
Nine feels like Wall-E without Wall-E as not made by Disney Pixar. Both for the good, in that they're willing to go a little bit darker than I think Disney Pixar would go, and the bad, in that there's just a level of polish that isn't quite there.
Yeah, even the Disney movies that I hate, I would never consider, I guess, as bad as some of the bottom of the barrel animated movies that can be made.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
But so any final thoughts you want to say about 9 before?
Not really. I feel like we've talked about 9. Coincidentally, this section of the video that I'm recording after my camera turned off just hit 9 minutes. So,
perfect.
Epic
So,
Gamer. Let's
stop
call it.
right now and then move on to our exorcism part.
Yes, let's just do the exorcism now. I don't want to turn off this recording and turn it on again. Just get this done. This is going to be a long freaking podcast episode. I feel like, are you going to get your thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like this is the worst episode to choose to make long, because I have had to fiddle with my recording stuff so many times. I'm recording my backup recording for this final segment. I'm doing it on my phone because I just want to get it done and finish it off.
To be fair, I think it fits that this is the longest episode, because this is also the episode that we recorded after we lost that other one.
Mm-hmm. We also had 4 movies that we watched. We've only watched 3 for the other podcasts.
And maybe talked about others, but
yeah.
4 movies that we watched for the pod. Okay, I'm gonna go grab that lightsaber real quick.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't see Kirk. Do you have your phone on you?
Yes.
Do you think you could videotape yourself exercising the movie while we're talking, and then I can just put that clip in?
You know I keep that setting on me.
Yep.
Alright.
Now we exercise Joe's apartment. Are you good on the technical end?
Yeah. Let me just,
His webcam doesn't work, so we're doing the exorcism in this weird way. Everything's weird. Coronavirus has created a strange scenario for this.
Yeah.
On the technical side.
Joe's apartment. It is time. You must face punishment for your crimes against humanity. What do you have to say for yourself for committing unspeakable atrocities? For your disgust. For your disgust. For your boringness. For your horror. Speak. Avast ye! Hark!
It goes so well together because we're exorcising the cockroach demon from Joe's apartment, but we also have the bees from Candyman. In my mind, they're just all one horrifying, fear-inducing entity that we're exorcising.
By the way, with the copious amounts of JoJo references we made this podcast, I think I know what the podcast episode is going to be called.
What?
Is that a JoJo's reference?
The problem is, we reference JoJo's this much in every episode.
But
Have we? I guess.
We did it for Candyman, Joe's Apartment, and 9. The only one I can't think we did a JoJo's reference for is Lighthouse.
Yeah, I guess. Bizarre.
Here, I'll do one real quick. Like JoJo's, there's a lot of both subtext and just plain text, and just plain straight up homoerotic text in the movie The Lighthouse. There's
Okay, alright. Caesar!
Caesar! Alright, do we want to do a round off of, like, giving people back our, Okay, let's do a round off and then close the podcast properly.
What do you mean a round off? What are we even talking about anymore? Why is this still happening?
Reintroduce, like, where they can follow us on Instagram.
Oh, yeah, okay. If you want more of this chaotic nonsense, follow me on Chuck Batman 5 on Instagram, and subscribe to my other YouTube channel, Chuck Batman 5.
You have another YouTube channel?
Yes, I do. I mostly upload Let's Plays there, gaming videos and such.
If you want to see more madness, where I go off on a billion different movie tangents and talk about how Speed Racer slaps. That was me slapping my knee. Follow me on Instagram at _captain with a K _ Kirk. That's the Captain Kirk.
Alright, fear.
Alright. Wait, do we want to... We have an email for the podcast, so I don't know if we want to...
We do? I don't know if we should share the email.
You don't think so?
We already have enough movies on our plate. We don't need people emailing us recommendations.
Alright. Thank you for watching, everybody, and remember...
Fear!